Welcome everyone to Haven of Horror. As always, I am subject. We have the dying ghost over here. Are you
Sorry,
okay?
my dad just sent me an email. I was like, "What is this?" I click on it, and it's a video of a woman getting out of a car, yelling at a man, and then he suplexes her,
What the fuck?
and then he walks away, and she's just on the ground in like a Family Guy death pose.
Oh my
Oh
god.
fuck! Sorry, that was too funny though.
We've got the Day Ghost and Robert here to
Good
talk
evening.
about an old classic. We
Yeah.
spun we spun the wheel, and the Day Ghost has disappeared. But that's okay.
We've already lost him.
We've already lost him. We are here to do a Dracula double feature, and as voted, um, the Hammer one won. A lot of sorts here.
Yeah.
All right. So, Robert, are you ready to watch Dracula?
I am, sir. I think I've only covered one Universal movie with you guys, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So
I think
obviously
so
a lot of
too.
these.
Before we start, what was that movie I was supposed to add to the wheel?
Rec slash quarantine.
Watch
We,
that
we
before
might
we get
land on it
tonight.
tonight.
Oh, and then
You
I
never
can
know.
delete the crazies. We can delete Dracula.
Oh, sorry, I'm back.
It's the returning ghost.
The return. Oh, there's a hole in my Man Thing shirt. What the hell?
That sentence started out very badly. There's a hole in my man thing.
That's worse than mysterious bite marks on your neck.
God damn it! Fuck you, Jeff.
So, Austin, where does this kind of rank for you amongst the Universal monsters that you've seen? Because you're the biggest fan, I think, of this stuff out of the three of us.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of all of them, like pretty high, but in terms of just like the first movies for each series, mm, it's honestly it might be like near the bottom because it's between this and the Wolfman, I think, for like the second at the bottom. Like they're all great, obviously. The Mummy's just okay. The Mummy's the weakest one. But I feel like after that, it's maybe Dracula. It's that or the Wolfman. By a couple performances, because we have a great Van Helsing, we have a great Renfield, a great Dracula, of course. Hmm.
I I've seen a lot of them now because I got the big Blu-ray set that has like 30 movies. It's awesome. Uh,
Hmm.
it's it's kind of two separate conversations. Like if you're just talking about like the OG classics, I'm in the same boat as Austin, where it's like, yeah, this is kind of lower tier. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. I like it, but if you're factoring in the five Mummy movies and all the Frankenstein crossover movies, then suddenly this ranks much higher. If you're
Hmm.
looking at the whole,
Yeah, because
10
like
plus year run.
when you say it's on the weaker end, like it's because these movies are so good more than
Right.
anything, really. Like Creature and Frankenstein and um the Invisible Man. Sorry, no, I was just thinking about it with Frankenstein because Frankenstein's a movie that's like boosted up a little bit because of Bride for me, where like that's really where it takes off. So that Bride movie for a second was like, maybe like pretty close.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Now
I think
John's leaving.
I think as far as like the Universal versions go, I'm just more of a Frankenstein guy. At least
Mhm.
like
I
the
mean, that
little
is like
earlier
the
movies.
best franchise
Hmm.
because I
Yeah,
even
for
really like three and I like four. And I like the crossover with the Wolfman. All right, it's not a good Frankenstein movie though. It's a good Wolfman sequel.
I had the same thing because I guess it was 2 years ago. I went through all the Frankenstein movies because I had just seen the
Mhm.
first couple, and I had the exact same thing where with Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, I was like, "Damn it, this is a really good Wolfman sequel. It's just kind of a bad Frankenstein movie
Yeah, and I
paired with
think
it."
a lot of that is so much of that stuff got cut too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The first
but
half of that movie is just a Wolfman sequel.
yeah, I have the same set that you do, but I've been going through them all, not
Mhm.
like specific series. So I think I'm on Son of Dracula is my next one, so I'm like a little bit over halfway.
Yeah, I've only seen, as far as Dracula goes, I've only seen the original and then the crossovers like House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and of course
Hmm.
Abbott and Lugosi meet, or
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello meet Lugosi's Dracula.
Look, go see me, Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly. So I've seen all those, but I still need to see Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula.
When Dracula's Daughter is like genuinely tragic because we almost had the James Whale version, and I don't know how
Yeah.
much you've looked into it, but like,
I've heard you talk about it. I'm definitely being
mhm,
curious to kind of do a deep dive on that at some point because it
yeah,
sounds interesting, but also like it's a bit of a compromise movie.
hmm, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I like Dracula's Daughter well enough. The Invisible Man sequels were pretty good too. Like they're nowhere near the height of it, but they're like basically effect showcases.
Well, I've heard that Invisible Man's kind of the polar opposite of the Mummy, where with Invisible Man they're all like wildly different movies,
Yes, because
which makes them interesting.
you have Invisible Man Returns, which is in the same vein, but then you have like Invisible Woman and Invisible Agent, which are both very different. Invisible Woman, I feel like is a movie that like most people would put at their bottom, but I don't know. I think it's pretty fun.
Well, I'd like to finally watch it. Like last year, I went through all the Mummy movies, and I actually like the first one quite a bit, the Karloff one, and
Yeah, it's pretty good.
there's a couple of decent follow ups, but man, that's one where they are all the same movie. After the Karloff one, like they are very repetitive, and by the end, just do a lot of repeated stock footage.
All
It's
right, is everybody
Well,
ready?
and some of them go a little bit longer than 60 minutes, but the Mummy sequels do not.
yeah,
And they still need like 15 minutes of stock footage.
exactly.
All right,
Yes,
is
John, I am
everybody?
ready.
All right, get timestamp 0. Robert almost let me forget the timer for once.
Yay! I can't hold your hand every week, John.
You literally say something every week. Don't even.
Don't even.
Oh, okay. In 3, 2, 1, play.
Did you remember the timer?
No. Yeah.
Dracula by Bram Stoker.
From the play adapted by Hamilton Dean and John L. Balderston.
Which weirdly stays as the template for a number of these adaptations. They're always looking at the play. This has been really popular because they're always looking at the play more
Well,
than they're looking at the book.
I feel like it's this movie is looking at the play, and then this is Dracula, so then everything's
Hmm.
looking at this movie after that.
Yeah, because in
But
some
they
ways
also
this
could be
feels
going back to
definitive.
the play.
In some ways this feels definitive, even though for me, like, it's not my definitive Dracula.
I mean, it's the iconic one. It's
Yeah.
what you think of.
It's
As
for me, it's the definitive Dracula, not in the definitive Dracula movie.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair.
I think I like Lee just a little bit better, even though I think Lugosi is brilliant.
That's
I
interesting.
mean, Lee's also great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and we'll get into it when we get to that. Obviously, that has absolutely nothing to do with the Universal version. That's a completely different studio, but he looks like Lugosi Dracula. Like they didn't try to reinvent it or do something different or go back to the book. Like he's got the same hair and cape and all that stuff.
At least Coppola gave him testicle hair.
Yeah.
Nosferatu.
That's a
And the
different
big thing with
movie.
these movies is just the black and white and the atmosphere is unmatched.
Yeah. Hmm.
I like that baby just hanging out in the middle there.
And I saw this was directed, I believe, by Todd Browning. Browning.
Yep.
Did he go on to do any more of these, or?
I'm
he
actually not
might have
sure, to be
done
honest.
Mummy, but I could be incorrect.
Here, I can look that up pretty quick. I'm
Cool.
actually not sure.
Austin, you're supposed to be the expert.
Yeah, but the only director I'm super familiar with from this point is
James Whale.
James Whale. Thank you. No, Carl Freund
Okay.
is the director of The Mummy.
Oh.
Gotcha. But
And we can
this
all agree
does.
the best Mummy is the Fraser.
I think it is. Now that I've seen all the old
I
ones.
mean, I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I need to rewatch it.
Oh, okay.
I feel like
Yeah,
just knowing your
so
sensibilities, you might hate it now, but I don't know.
Oh, I mean, I loved it as a kid. I loved both of them.
it's pretty close in tone to like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like it's not as good as those, but it's in that vein.
I
Like I think
also
it
like
holds up.
his GI Joe movie well enough. Stephen Summers.
Yeah, and I think Mummy's better than that. But yeah, I don't mind
They're
that movie.
connected. Brendan Fraser is the
It's
descendant
true.
of his mummy character. I also watched The Scorpion King a lot as a kid.
I did too. That one's not great.
I'm afraid to go back to that one.
Yeah.
I mean, just watch Conan the Barbarian instead. It's the exact same movie.
Dracula and his wives. I like Mustache K.
It is funny that this doesn't have a warning at the beginning, but Frankenstein did.
I'm guessing that was maybe just a response to this because this comes out first. This is the first one.
Yeah.
They both came out the same year. So I wonder if when Frankenstein came around, they're like, "Oh, guys, we got some complaints. Let's put a disclaimer up front." Because this
Yeah,
is
I
the
mean, it's
OG.
possible.
And
Oh,
right off the bat,
Ramshield.
yeah, he's so clueless. I love him. But it's funny just how right off the bat Universal establishes just their tone, the style, just the production, the sets. It they all get it right from the get go. It's really cool.
Hmm. And also the actors that they're gonna, continue with, because Dwight Fry is gonna come back quite a bit,
That's
and
true.
Lugosi later on, but like they screw him over pretty bad.
Oh yeah. Well, and Dwight Fry though, I feel like is by far the most underrated of these actors in this era. Probably just because he died pretty young. Like he didn't.
I love Dwight Fry. Like I said when we were starting, like I think he's as good as Lugosi is in this film.
I do too.
And forgive me for not knowing, but I don't know the name of the guy who plays Van Helsing, but he's also, I think, kind of up there.
Yeah.
It's like they're like the main trinity that I think really hold this version up.
Yeah,
Van Helsing is
absolutely.
pretty good, but he's no Hugh Jackman.
Also, Steven Summers.
That's true.
And I like that movie.
Look, that
I,
wasp had its own coffin that it came out
I
of.
know it's so goofy.
Ah, my children of the night. He does have like a bit of a face that's saying, like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, that's what I love. Is that Dracula just looks confused.
This does do a slightly better job at concealing his identity as the coachman as opposed to the original Nosferatu, where he's like, I'm not a vampire. Look at my goofy hat.
They didn't say that. There's no sound. Hello, I am typical American taxi driver.
So this is our first big major change from the book. It's giving the Jonathan stuff at the castle to Renfield. How do you guys feel about that change?
Well, I don't think Dracula's the one driving the coach in the book either. I could be
Oh, okay.
wrong about that.
I've only read the book once, and it was like a kind of edited down for younger audiences version.
Mm.
yeah.
So I don't really have any
But
opinion.
as for that change, obviously for the overall story, like I prefer the original, but if you're gonna reduce it down to 90 minutes, or not even 90 minutes, sorry, like
Yeah.
70 minutes, I think it's a wise choice.
Yeah, it's not something I really need again in another version, which I mean we don't really. But for this movie, I think it works, especially when you get to the Demeter stuff and how
Oh
they
yeah, because he's so
change
good
that up.
in that Demeter scene. Yeah.
Well, when we get
Well,
there,
that's
we
something I
have to
really like.
pause this and watch Voyage of the Demeter, right? Because that lines up.
Yeah. Well, then when we're finished, we have to watch Renfield, which is a direct sequel to this.
That's true.
But that's something I really like, Robert, about the Skybound book, where it's going specifically back to this version, so it keeps details like that.
Yeah. No, the Skybound comic adaptation is definitely something we want to review with you at some point soon because I think that does an excellent job at being really faithful to this movie and just tweaking it enough and actually improving on it.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So, how do you guys feel about the bat special effects in this picture?
They're
They're
great.
wonderful.
I like that they actually trained real bats for it. I love that he has just like such a random assortment of animals. Like it's, you
I
know,
know.
after this, it's always, bats, wolves, whatever, snakes. Here it's like armadillos, possums, a wasp.
The original Nosferatu kind of has that too, where there's a scene where they're like, "Look, it's Nosferatu. He's a dog, or it's a wolf," and then we cut to a hyena, and you're like, That's a hyena."
Yeah,
They're
but
like, "Ah, it's
there's the
1922. People don't
1920s. They didn't
give
know.
a
He's become some sort of a cat. The pan over, he's like a panda.
fuck." And of course, this is, I think, the most iconic set in
Oh
visuals from
yeah,
this movie.
it's something that I just have with uh, Dracula adaptations in general, which is everyone that adapts this really like latches onto the castle segment. Like that's the big one where
Yeah,
it's like, we're gonna go all out on this. We can make this great. And I feel like a lot of them struggle, especially by the time they get to England, where it's like, okay, we're kind of past the part that is maybe a little more interesting for a lot of people. Not to say that that's all of them, but I do feel like that's kind of a common struggle with Dracula adaptations.
yeah, and I certainly have that with this version. I do think it drags a little in the back half.
Hmm. That's fair enough. Do not touch my webbing. You will offend Shilob. No, Renfield, this is where you ask how he walked through the web without breaking it down.
Yeah, he's not the smartest
No, exactly. He's not exactly the smartest cat in the shed.
guy. It's kind of ironic though that Dwight Fry, who his other big role after this in the same year as Fritz the Hunchback and Frankenstein, where even that's kind of ends up being weirdly eclipsed by Lugosi as Igor in the sequels, because that becomes the iconic character people think. People remember the Igor Hunchback, not Fritz the original.
But there's weird stuff like that, man. Like, obviously, Karloff Frankenstein is what everybody thinks of, but with the second you say, "How does Frankenstein move?" It's Lugosi. But like,
Yeah.
design-wise, it's more Karloff. But like, everybody does the thing. It's very interesting.
Well, and the reason, because that's in the fourth or fifth movie, and the reason why he's doing that is because
'Cause he's
he's
blind.
blind, he can't see, and then that was cut out of the movie. So what you're left with is no explanation for why he's slowly walking like that. But then that's what sticks around through cultural osmosis.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it makes his performance look worse when you don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
But the ending of the one before that, where they put Lugosi's brain into the monster, is like one of the
That
best
ending's
things in
great.
any of the Universal monsters. It's I, Igor.
They did a great job with this 4K transfer.
See, the online transfer I'm looking at looks like shit.
It's like an old DVD rip, probably.
There's like static white noise that's ringing through the movie.
That's amazing.
Ooh, give me some of that blood, boy.
It is weird going back to these when like think of like, okay, what are the most repeated scenes and adaptations, and this one's got to rank pretty high where it's like, oh my
Oh,
god,
I
I've
was
seen
gonna
this
say the same
so many
thing. Yeah,
times.
it's every Dracula movie's got to do it. At least he knocked his cross out, unlike the new Nosferatu. I feel like this is also one of the most quoted lines too. The I never drink wine.
Mhm.
His delivery is just so good.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
I don't
you're.
think.
Mhm.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry. Go.
what? No, go ahead.
Well, I don't think Lugosi's English was particularly great at this point, but it adds to the performance.
But yeah, I
It's really
mean,
authentic.
you're talking about a character who's like a foreign invader. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense. That is the horror of Dracula. Like, that is what the story is.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? No, going back to the Renfield thing, Robert. I actually always forget that Jonathan Harker does end up showing up later on in the movie. I always just keep thinking that they like condense them into one character and it's just Renfield. But then he does pop up by the end.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame you because Jonathan's just such a nothing character in this movie.
Hmm.
Which, yeah, that is kind of a strange choice, but that's whatever.
It's great for the Renfield stuff.
But it's like you were saying the other day when we were on Geekvolution, we did the Nosferatu review. Like a lot of these adaptations, just by their nature, have to shortchange certain things.
Yeah.
Because that is like a pretty expanded cast in that book. A lot of them are things that make a lot of sense, like the multiple men that are fighting for Lucy's attention. Like that's the one of the first things it's like obvious to condense down when you're adapting this. Get out of here, women. This is mine.
Yeah, it's cool that the brides are here, even though you only see them a couple times. Like they don't get to do much.
Yeah, it's another thing I forgot was in this is the brides. I
Well,
mean,
Yeah,
it's
'cause I
cool
feel
they're
like
there.
that's something I don't see a lot.
It's like very
it's
hit or
kind of
miss.
50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest they've played in a movie is probably the Coppola one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I know there's a
Well, you
Brides
can't
of
forget the Van
Dracula
Helsing
movie.
ones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if that
Van
counts.
Van Van Helsing, unironically, is the best Dracula brides. They're so
Oh yeah,
campy. I love them.
they're the weird like gray flying gargoyle women,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
right. I forgot that that's what they were.
I do legitimately though. I do legitimately like the guy that plays Dracula in that movie. I think he's great.
I do too. I that's a kind of a guilty pleasure, nostalgic movie for
Yeah,
me.
I think it's a lot of fun.
Aboard the
It's
Vesta.
whatever. I like Frankenstein in it. That's kind of
He's
about it.
great.
But
I'm shocked
he's
you didn't like their
awesome in it.
Dracula because like I said, I think
He
he's
just doesn't
really
really, he
good.
didn't really stick with me. Like he didn't. It didn't really like jump out at me.
Oh, fair enough.
I was like, oh, he's fine.
Meanwhile, on the Demeter,
No, it's the Vesta.
Dracula, stop watching and help, you freeloader.
I love some of those like reaction shots from Dracula where you're just like, what?
You know what the best version of the Demeter is?
So
Jurassic Park 2, where the T-Rex somehow slowly picked them all off on the other
yeah,
sailing, and it makes no sense, but like it's
There's
just a
just a
reference.
hand there.
Yeah, it's like just
Yeah.
a reference to Dracula.
Hmm. It's cool though that they were able to do all this stuff.
yeah. This doesn't look like what I would imagine a '30s movie looks like. It feels grander in scope than what I would think you could do at that time.
Well, one thing I always complain about is that this film's very like shot like a stage play, but I'm not having that as
Yes.
much in this film as a negative. Where I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it looks fine. Like it's
Yeah.
not especially cinematic, like say Frankenstein will be. But like, I don't know. On this viewing, I'm not really having an issue with it.
No, I like the first half a lot. I have more of that issue in the back half.
No, and that's
Um,
absolutely fair.
but like the shot of the shadow of the captain tied to the wheel,
Okay,
like that's great.
Yeah,
I'm coming around
that's
on
a
this
great shot.
Renfield. He's great.
He's so
Yeah,
good.
Dwight Fry is like maybe the best Renfield. He's great.
And this is an addition that's really cool that, of course, other adaptations aren't really able to work in or like make sense because it's unique to this movie. But Renfield on the Demeter, kind of helping Dracula out, is a really cool choice.
Hmm.
That's actually creepy.
Yeah, that's such a good shot. And then they're like, "Oh, what happened to all these other people? Oh, this crazy guy fucking killed them." You know?
Is Austin, because you know that movie better than me. Is Renfield in the '90s one?
Yeah,
Yes,
Who
he's
plays
got like
him?
metal things on his hands.
Oh, okay.
it's got a weird straight jacket.
Yeah, and he's got
I
glasses, and he talks about eating flies.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
I
he's the
like.
Skybound one.
Yeah.
Well, that one looks like
That's-
Jeff the Killer, though.
but that is in the '90s one. Like I like that Renfield, but that is a version where it feels like we just cut back to him in the asylum a few times, but he doesn't really get to contribute much to the plot.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's kind of just there because he has to be.
Hmm.
It's part of Dracula. I agree. That's not. He's not bad or anything.
Yeah.
Like he's fine. No,
Well, one.
more so with that one. I always think of the Simpsons joke with the Dracula episode where Smithers comes out and he's designed like that Renfield. That's always what my mind goes to for that movie first.
one thing that I kind of find fascinating about comparing this to Nosferatu, the original, the previous Dracula adaptation, is the different spin they have on Dracula arriving to London, or in that case, Germany, where
Mhm.
in Nosferatu it's coded with, the plague. They add the stuff with the rats, and it's like, oh my god, it's like the plague. It starts killing all these people. Here in this version, it's very Jack the Ripper, where
Mhm.
you've got him stalking the streets with his top hat and you know killing some of these women. It feels very evocative of that. It's just a really cool kind of different spin on
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Well,
It's
one
like
thing I
Bill
like about
Clinton.
this over Nosferatu, because I do like the Nosferatu, the original, but I like that this Dracula is more human. I don't
Yeah,
like when Dracula's too monsterish. Like it
that's the
works
thing
well
is.
enough for like Voyage of the Demeter because that's basically a slasher movie.
Mhm.
Yeah, it depends on the version for me. Like I can like both. Though the big thing with like the monster one, like with Last Voyage of the Demeter, if it was just that, I probably wouldn't like it as much. I do like that by the end you get more of a sense that he does have an actual personality on top of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because that Dracula's an evil son bitch.
Oh yeah, no kidding. That's one of the. I like that movie, but one of its shortcomings, it's like, oh, they're really trying to tease a sequel that's not gonna happen.
Oh, see,
That's kind of unfortunate.
see, for me, I don't have that at all. I think that ending is
Ah,
like killer, in that I don't want more after that.
oh, okay.
But fair enough.
So this is like what the fifth just Bela Lugosi reaction shot.
Yeah. We
The
should have been taking
fifth.
shots.
You think we've
I-
had that few?
Probably more.
No, I love the highlighting when we cut to
Yeah.
him.
I love that it's consistent no matter where he is, and then every
Yeah.
shot is just him looking mildly confused.
Yeah. I don't know if we talked over it, but I know there are a couple shots where the lighting is like a little off, where one's like perfectly in his
Mhm.
eye and another one's like on his cheek. And it's like, oh, they didn't quite nail it.
It's okay. It was 1930.
Yeah. But I
I love talking about death. Keep going.
don't.
And obviously, Dracula has kind of become a pop culture icon, not just here in the states. In the first season of Digimon, there's a obviously Dracula inspired Digimon, and they take
That
a
is
lot of
not where I thought you were going.
iconography, like the horsebound carriage and stuff like that, from
Hmm.
those.
Ah, I never digivolve.
Uh,
Well, the
This
best
scene.
Dracula parody thing in pop culture is Conker's Bad Fur Day, of course.
I've never played it.
There's like a whole world where you go to Transylvania and you have to sacrifice villagers to Dracula.
But no, I knew that Dracula, the Digimon thing would probably catch Austin off guard because I doubt he's ever seen an episode, and I was not disappointed.
Well, no, it was more so just like, oh yeah, Dracula's a pop culture icon. For example, Digimon. Like
Digimon.
It's just the one that I think of.
no, it's just funny. Like, oh, okay.
But, I love how in this scene though we're dedicating a lot of time to Nina and Lucy here, and then Jonathan's just there, like he's just standing.
He's Prince
I don't like
Charming.
that
He's there.
smile on his face. Another thing that kind of I think separates Dracula from a lot of the Universal monsters is he's not a sympathetic villain. Like Frankenstein is
Yes.
sympathetic. The Invisible Man, at least the first one, is sympathetic. No, this guy's just evil.
Well, and later on, they try to put Dracula into that mold, and it doesn't work. But
Oh.
that's something I really like, where Dracula is like the bastard of the of
Mhm.
the invisible monsters, the universal monsters.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that does set this apart from kind of what becomes the template with Frankenstein is the more humanized monsters, which I love. But then it also makes sense when you do get to later reverential monster mash stuff, like the Monster Squad. Like it makes sense we make Dracula the main bad guy
Yeah,
with
well,
all
it's
those
interesting
monsters.
because like Dracula's not sympathetic, but he still has some of those same themes that kind of go across all of them. You know, of the like outsider,
Mm.
being that's not part of society, that's clashing by coming into society. You know what I mean? Like it is still playing with those same themes. It's just that he's not nice about it.
Yeah, exactly. And
He's
then
not
later,
accidentally drowning a girl. He's drowning a
right?
girl and eating popcorn.
Yeah, and then later adaptations, disconnected from the Universal stuff, like will do more of the tragic
Mhm.
humanized spin with like the love story element that comes into some versions.
And I
Yeah,
don't mind
exactly.
that take, but I like for this one that he doesn't fit into that mold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do prefer bastard Dracula over sympathetic tragic Dracula, but like I can't like both versions. Like I like the Coppola movie.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I like
Oh,
Dracula a
God,
lot.
that
It's just it's so good.
amazing. What do you need
For
me to do in this scene? Lay in bed.
he's doing a great job.
Dracula's
But
just having a little trouble coming through the window. It's okay.
it's fine. He's trying his best. I think it feels like what that scene was going for was like a "let me in" moment, but she doesn't say anything. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now he's here.
Well, it's
And
interesting that
then,
we're watching these now after having talked about like "Let Me In," which is
mhm,
kind of because that is also a love story in a like
tragic,
you could almost
sadly.
say that this is kind of a love story, like he's seducing her. But in that one, and Let Me In, it's more of like, oh, this is horrifying, and the monster gets what they want.
And
Whereas this
here,
is like,
here we have Van Helsing at the KKK rally.
What? That's not what I'm looking at.
What are you looking at?
The guy just threw away Renfield's fly, and he was like, "Oh no!"
Oh,
oh, I'm looking at like a medical scene.
Yeah,
yeah.
I had that like
Are you
5 minutes
watching a
ago.
different? Oh, weird. Okay, we're way off. No, the medical scene's just shot really
Okay,
awkwardly,
now
or like
we're
Oh,
looking
now
down
I
at these
have
people.
Renfield. He's pouring something into a test tube.
yeah, now we're going to this institute.
I'm looking
Yes.
at the Seward Sanitarium
Yeah.
established shot.
Oh, okay. So I'm just like ahead of you guys, apparently.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ugh.
He probably wants his flies again.
He's like, "Oh, Martin, no, my fly."
Austin's probably watching the edited version of this like G-rated movie.
Joke's on you. I'm actually watching the Spanish version.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Martin. On the one hand, I love him. On the other hand, it's just so 30 screwball comedy. Like
I
it's
hate
so different from this
Martin.
movie.
I hate Martin. He threw away Renfield's fly. He's a bastard.
Yeah.
No,
No,
no, my good friend. Why would you do
he
that?
feels out of place in the tone that this movie has been going for so
Yeah,
far.
but Renfield's still selling it.
I mean, if it were James Whale, you would replace Martin with that screaming woman.
That's true.
Um, so Austin, at this point, because you've seen Nosferatu, what is your favorite Dracula adaptation? Is it still the '90s one?
It might be the new Nosferatu at this point. I'm not really sure.
There's a video ranking all the Dracula adaptations.
Oh, it'd be
That
so
that would be
hard.
really hard for me. I like too many of them for different reasons.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to talk about earlier, though. Is like I don't have like a favorite or preferred take on Dracula. He's not like Batman for me, where there's lots of different versions I like for different reasons. But there is a version of Batman that's kind of my favorite. More in like that animated series vein That's kind of the closest to like what I think of my definitive Batman. I don't really have that with Dracula. I'm just like, yep, I like this version. I like the more monstrous version. I like the tragic version. I'm just kind of open to anything. I don't have like a preferred singular take, but obviously this is, like the gold standard one that everyone's looking at.
Mhm. No, like in terms of like presentation, like for me it's Lugosi, but I don't want everyone to just copy that. Like I have the same
Right.
thing you do in that way where it's like I'm perfectly happy to see new interpretations of it. And it's why I can go from, The Last Demeter to Renfield to Nosferatu to this, you know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
that all
Yeah,
works.
I realized at some point like I'm not very passionate about the Dracula take. Like I'll just watch, whatever. Um, out of the ones I've seen, the one we're gonna watch next is probably my favorite, but that could change. I haven't seen
Interesting.
Nosferatu yet.
It's really good.
I really love the Hammer movies, like atmosphere and aesthetic. And
Yeah, I've started to go through all the Hammer movies this year. I'm only 2 in. My next one is The Abominable Snowman, which
Oh,
is
that
the
sounds
first one with
awesome.
Peter Cushing.
Yay.
their first Frankenstein movie is
Yeah, it
Excited
is
to see
really
it.
good.
Austin needs to see it without the local.
Without Sammy Terry talking
Yeah.
over it. Yeah, I was too distracted by Sammy Terry.
I have to tell you, when you messaged me that you were watching that movie with that cut in, like my jaw dropped because I forgot about him.
Mhm.
But no, my dad loved Sammy Terry.
He's a wild guy.
What are you
So,
drinking?
Hot chocolate, but all the stuff was at the bottom.
Oh, I hate
oh.
that.
It was a
Chocolate's
terrible
really
mix.
good.
So like most of it was watery, and then the bottom part was chalky.
Oh, do you use water?
Yeah.
Ugh.
What do you mean? That's how
What?
you make hot chocolate.
No, you make it with milk.
No, you boil water and then you mix in the thing.
No, you boil milk and then you mix in the powder.
No.
Have you ever tried it that way?
No. I've tried it where you boil water, put it in, and then add milk. But I've never
That's just
had it
overcome.
just.
Next time you make hot chocolate, instead of water, boil some milk, put
That
the
is not how
powder
you
in.
make it, but oh fuck, I dropped my phone.
Robert, how do you drink hot chocolate?
I don't drink hot chocolate. I have no say
I
in this.
never drink a chocolate.
No, but seriously, just try it. It's really good.
I don't know.
I will go make some during the break.
Okay, do it.
Okay.
Oh no, we have negative people watching the stream now.
The great hot chocolate debate. I can't drink it with water. That's disgusting.
How is that disgusting? That's how you make it.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
This is the real Canada versus USA debate.
No, I think the real question is here. What the fuck? Who doesn't drink hot chocolate?
Well, I'm
I
allergic
mean, I
to
can
chocolate,
understand
so
that. Yeah.
it's kind of a factor.
It's fine.
I love these scenes where it's just Renfield just walking in a room, just hanging out, and they're like, "Get out of here, Renfield, fucking crazy guy." It's like, why are you letting him out? it's that very stage play thing of just we can just let him just wander on the stage whenever because we need him there for dialogue. But it's like, just lock him up. Why are you letting him out of his room?
That's my favorite. Oh yeah, I forgot we're not in the same place, but the like weird face he makes where his mouth's open, but there's like no teeth showing when he's walking forward. That's my favorite Lugosi shot.
But one change in this that can be kind of jarring if you've read or I should say, if you're familiar with the book, that does persist in several other adaptations. It's we cut Lucy's suitors entirely in this version, but we keep Dr. Seward, but we age him up to an older guy and make him Mina's father. So he's like basically, he's almost a completely different character, except that he's still, at this institute. But that does stick around in other adaptations. It's just weird that I think one of the most jarring edits in this, though, is we immediately cut to Lucy dying after that first bedroom scene with Dracula, and then we don't really dwell on it a whole lot. We don't get a lot of reactions to it. It is surprising me that we don't have any love interest for Lucy in this version to kind of deal with that.
Nobody liked her anyways. It's all good. I googled it, and Google AI says that you can make hot chocolate with either milk or water. So fuck you, Jen.
I mean, I didn't say you couldn't make it with water. I just said it was gross.
It did also describe it as being worse with water, but whatever.
It's like drinking hot water with the chocolate aftertaste.
Anyway,
Robert's done with this conversation.
Austin, we just got to the shot you were talking about with Dracula doing that face when he's approaching.
It's so funny.
That scene's kind of. I have a fun fact for that scene though. Is what you were talking about earlier, Austin, with how like what's remembered as like the Frankenstein walk is the lumbering arms thing that Lugosi does. We just talked over it, but the scene when he's approaching Mina, when Dracula has his arm up with the cape, like that kind of iconic pose, there's a deleted scene there where he hypnotizes one of the servants to come in and remove the garlic that's in there. But that was from later in the movie, and then they moved that scene up front. But you're missing the context, so that's why for like that one shot he has his arm up, it's because there's garlic in there and he's trying to repel the smell. But then that's just becomes the Dracula pose after this movie.
Yeah. And then it makes it all the way to
visual.
And then it makes it all the way to Plan 9.
Yes, it does. It brings his career full circle. You could
exactly.
He remembers when he was in better movies.
Well, I mean, he didn't know he was in Plan 9, to be fair.
He didn't know he was gonna die making it.
But that dentist really brought it all full circle for him.
We gotta do a commentary on that on the channel.
I've never seen it.
It's a wonderful movie.
John's also never seen Ed Wood. I've been on at him for like years now.
Let's shoot this fucker.
Let's shoot this fucker. Karloff? Fuck you!
So good.
Yeah, the problem with Ed Wood is it's never fucking streaming.
That's true.
Yeah, it's been on Disney Plus here for like forever, but
that was with Insidious. It took us like 5 years to watch Insidious because it was never streaming, and then we did, and I was like, oh, that was all right. And Austin was like, oh, this is worse than I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, my finger's cut open for some reason.
Because you drink hot chocolate with water.
Fuck you. I thought you were going to say because we're watching Dracula. Dracula probably mixes hot chocolate with water.
Well, he's a monster.
Well, just because he's foreign and he comes from another land with their own traditions? Okay, John.
He drinks blood.
Okay. You're definitely one of the British people in this movie that's like, oh, this foreigner, we must stab him in the heart.
We're Team Mina. She's like, hey, I like this guy. He's weird. He's interesting.
Yeah, cool. He's not a boring British person. He's,
like fuckboy Jonathan.
Yeah, he probably cooks with spice. Although I guess Van Helsing is also foreign. It's the battle of the foreigners.
That's true.
It's kind of like interesting in a way how a lot of these like classic horror stories are really just about the like people's paranoia or racism.
Oh yeah.
Looking at you, H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh yeah.
Austin, what was the name of his cat again?
I don't remember. Robert, do you know?
No, I think Noah knows.
He won't tell us. It's kind of
We
mean.
should get him to call in.
I think it might be Noah, actually, because I think it starts with an N. It might be like Noah Man.
Speaking of H.P. Lovecraft, we got to do Reanimator soon.
That's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
Or
It is a
is
good
that
movie.
is that an anniversary this year?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
85?
I'm not
It's so
sure.
simple, but I do love the way they shoot this
Well,
scene.
it is 85, so yeah, we do have to do that this year.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if
Wow.
you'd seen that one or not.
Oh yeah, I've seen Reanimator. It's a good family picture.
It is.
It's also the 65th anniversary this year of the soundtrack to Reanimator.
We should listen to it for its anniversary.
Yeah, like I said, I like the cast. I like the way they shoot that
I
scene.
love the way he
a
just
lot.
slaps that box out of his hand.
It's so good.
And he's
But-
so offended too when he looks back up.
Lugosi would have made a great comic book movie villain.
Oh, absolutely.
Who would you guys cast him as?
Green Goblin. Kind of the first one that comes to mind. Really think about it.
Hugo Strange.
Yes,
That would be cool.
that's a good one.
It's I, Hugo Strange, and I have invented a new super race of monster men.
Put him in that like Igor suit where he's hunched over, and you could maybe pass him off as the Penguin. Imagine if he played the Penguin just but the exact same way as he played Igor. It's me, Penguin.
That was more Mario. It's a me,
It's me.
Penguin.
Well, it'll be a hybrid performance. He's gonna play a little bit of Igor, a little bit of Mario.
John, we just talked over it, but that's my favorite. Oh, we don't have money for this scene when Jonathan's
The
just
wolf?
standing there pointing. He's like, "Look over there, a dog where Dracula was. Look where I'm pointing. We're not gonna show it because we're not gonna show that. Just look at me pointing. Just take my word for it."
Yeah, he's like, look, there's your wolf at the end of the courtyard.
Yeah, this is when the movie starts to slow down for me, where it's a lot of just sitting around this room talking.
I'm having that too.
See, I'm in a great Renfield scene right now.
This only happens with Austin.
That's true.
Nothing will beat the infamous Friday the 13th 9 debacle, though.
The what one?
That was the best.
Jason Goes to Hell, where you were watching a
God.
completely different cut.
Oh god, another terrible movie.
Yeah. But
To be fair, mostly
it
happens with really bad movies.
Or the
Because it's
Family
like-
Guy Simpsons crossover.
Well, with the exception of that. That's a
So
really
you're saying
terrible
this is a
TV
bad
show
movie?
episode.
So you're saying this is a bad movie?
No, I don't know what happened with this. I think it's just because somebody, like, stupid uploaded it on the internet.
How long is your copy?
An hour, 11 minutes.
Oh yeah, mine's an hour and 14.
Mine is. Oh my god,
There you
you
go.
do have this censored. What?
Yeah, it
Why?
would, because it's probably like some shitty VHS. Remember when I said the transfer was terrible? It's probably the old censored VHS copy.
Oh, it's so
Could have been avoided if you just watched it on your Blu-ray.
See, if it were Frankenstein, I would have known because I know more about what's censored in that. I don't know
Yeah.
really with this one, but you have that awesome needle thing that they censor in Frankenstein, where the scene makes no sense without it.
Yeah, well, John, I don't know if you know about this, but the really infamous cut in Frankenstein that was a thing for like decades was the scene when he accidentally drowns the girl. And after the initial release, when they started re-releasing these movies like in the 40s, that the scene when he throws her in the pond was cut out, as along with a couple other scenes that they thought were too dark. But then that's the cut of the movie that existed for decades until they found that footage. But without that scene, you don't have the context of it being an accident. So it's actually more horrifying, where it's just Frankenstein meets this little girl, hard cut to her dad carrying her dead body, and you're like, what the hell did he do to her? Like, what happened? Like, it's actually more fucked up without that context. And that's the version of the movie that existed for like 30 years.
I can't
The
see
worst
that.
for me though is that needle scene, because it's like the monster's freaking out, and they're like, "Get him to calm down," and then the monster's like, and falls over. It's like, why did he do that?
Why was that considered obscene? I don't
I
know.
I can't see that scene where he throws her into the lake without seeing the Chucky episode where they show that, and Chucky just laughing like a lunatic when that happens.
Yes.
So the best one though is the "It's alive." Now I know what it's like to be when thunder strikes.
um Yeah, Austin, I know we've already missed it for you, but the scene with Renfield when he's like slowly crawling to like the woman who passed out on the ground, that's a little better in the Spanish version, because you just assume like, oh no, he's gonna attack this lady, but then he just picks a fly off of her.
That's
so it's
pretty
like,
good.
oh, yeah, I'm not sure why that little bit's not in this version.
But that whole scene's amazing, where he sees the bad and he's like, "No, no!"
No.
And then they're like, "Oh, Dracula," and he's like, "Dracula? Never heard of him."
uh, and then we get one shot. This is the most bizarre change. We get one shot of vampire Lucy just walking around in one exposition scene about it, and then it never comes up again. That is like the biggest, like, I think, kind of failure of this as an adaptation. It's like, why would you show her as a vampire lady if you're not gonna pay that off or do anything? But just keep her dead. I don't know. It's so weird.
No.
One thing that I think is interesting, I don't know if it's in this movie because I don't remember the last half of this very well, but I do remember it being in the version of the book I read, and it's you see in other adaptations where they have to kind of hammer the stake into the.
Yeah.
That was like
Into the
that
house.
was like mind blowing to me for some reason as a kid because I was so used to just Buffy because she's superpowered, she just stakes them. I was like, oh yeah, of course you would have to like hit the damn thing.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, look, I haven't tried, but if you just try to hit somebody with a piece of wood, it's probably not going all the way in there. But
But I mean, in the
we'll
book,
test
they
that on
kill him
this
with a
one.
Bowie knife.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. So the stakes don't come from that book?
Nope, and that comes from this.
No.
Huh?
Yeah, and I think the Coppola movie brings back the Bowie knife.
Yes.
Probably because the mission statement with that and the Brana Dracula or Frankenstein was just make it the book.
Yeah, but I mean, they also add a lot. Like they have the whole tragic love story thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes these, particularly Dracula and Frankenstein, so interesting, is how much stuff is iconic and sticks around through cultural and cultural osmosis and other forms of fiction through adaptation, not the original source. That happens twice with Dracula because you get Nosferatu getting killed by sunlight, and that's not in the book. And then in this, you get him getting staked in the heart, and that's not in the book. And both things stick
Mhm.
around through culture and countless other adaptations.
And
Mhm.
other vampires. And...
Yeah, it's just more pieces of the lore.
Well, and then by the time you get to some of the later Hammer films, he's getting killed in all sorts of weird ways.
But he keeps coming back.
I am honestly a little surprised just because I've always said, the slasher movies were kind of the next generation of these, at different time, but still that same idea of like a monster, and depending on the slasher, some of those themes of being an outsider or whatever. Though we've never done a lot of like just universal monster slasher movies. I think Dracula's the only one we try that with.
I mean, the old Mummy sequels are just proto slashers.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I don't think Renfield's been in his cell once in the last like
Nope.
20 minutes. He's in a Canadian prison.
And like I said, I do like the actress who plays Mina a lot in this. She's just kind of in that box of just kind of a one-dimensional damsel.
Mhm.
But I do like her performance.
Yeah, for sure. She's no what's her face? Is it Elsa Lancaster? I think from Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, she's
She's
amazing.
good. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in Bride, I don't like that prologue at all with her as Mary Shelley. But I mean, it's worth it for her performance just because she gets to act more and do something else.
Well, what I like about it is that uh, both of those movies have really silly openings because
Yes.
of it.
And neither of you have seen the '90s Frankenstein.
It does make me
Nope,
wish,
just need to see it.
though. Yeah, same. Still need to see it. It does make me wish, though, that the first movie had had that retroactively. But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just for that consistency.
yeah. Let
Well,
me tell you my story of horror.
well, and these are both early sound movies where this and Frankenstein both don't have scores, except for you just get. I think Frankenstein also has the stock Swan Lake music in the opening credits. But then by the time you get to Bride is when there's like actually a full score for that movie on. You just notice it less in Frankenstein just because there's a lot more sound going on with the lightning and the machinery and stuff. Here, like this is a very quiet like movie where it's like,
I
oh yeah,
mean,
there's no.
Frankenstein to Bride of Frankenstein, just on almost every level, like the leap is huge. Like even just production and how it's shot and stuff. It's like it's not that far off, but it feels like it's almost like an entirely different era.
Yeah, it feels a lot more grand.
Yeah. You get to see the ceilings of the set.
Yeah,
And
but
before
even
Citizen Kane.
that's true. But even in this movie, I think my issues are more with just the nature of it adapting the stage play than the way it's shot. Where it's just like, man, it's a lot of stand around this room.
That's fair. I think
But
just the performances kind of pull me through, but I get where you're coming from.
well, and watching Renfield just dick around is always fun.
I love when he walks in and they're like, "Hey, Renfield, we're gonna put a straight jacket on you. You can't be walking around here."
And Jonathan's just always in the background. He's just standing there.
Jonathan.
He's just standing there menacingly.
But
See, but
yeah,
if it were a Hammer film, his name would be Paul.
we'll get to the weird name stuff in that movie.
Well, not just the first one. There's like every single one of those has like some guy named Paul, and like in the sequels, they're not even the same Paul.
Well, I still need to watch
Is
them.
one
But
of
I
them
know
a three-eyed monkey?
Hmm.
Is one of the Pauls a three-eyed monkey?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Paul.
Robert knew this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I got the reference. I still need to watch. I'm looking forward to them, the Hammer and Dracula sequels. But I know one of them has a Mina, but I don't know if it's the same Mina that's in the first one. But I'll get to it when I get to it.
I've only seen the first two Draculas and the Hammer. The biggest issue with the sequel is just that it's not like really a Dracula movie. It's about like his daughter.
Yeah, and then he comes back, and then Lee comes back. I think in the third one, and then he's in a few more.
And I didn't care about her. Like it's fine. It wasn't bad.
Are you saying that the second one stars Dracula's daughter?
Yes.
Where I was just at, he did the cape thing again.
Yay!
Yay!
Now that you have learned what you have learned,
He did the thing.
Van Helsing was also a surprise to me when I first got into like the original Dracula story because I'd already seen the movie at that point. So when I got to like an actual Dracula story, it's like, oh, he's just like an old guy.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I
usually
remember.
just some old guy.
I remember watching when I was a kid the behind the scenes on the Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie, where they were talking about like, yeah, if you go back to the old movie, Van Helsing, he's just like this old guy. He's not that intimidating. We really want to change. It's like that's just what he is in the book.
Yeah, what do you mean just the old movie? That's every Van Helsing. I
They
believe
should
the
have been
character you were
honest.
trying to adapt was named Wolverine.
I was gonna say they should have just been honest. Like, yeah, we wanted to turn him into Wolverine.
Yep.
It's fine. Hugh Jackman does what he can with that material.
Austin, I'm on the double jointed Hungarian scene.
I think she's honey.
Austin, you got to watch Dracula 2000.
No.
You guys, now that's something I've never seen that I'd be down for a blind commentary on the channel at some point.
It is very of its
I've
time.
never seen it.
I'd be
And
down.
neither of you guys have seen the Shadow the Vampire movie, right? With Willem Dafoe playing Max Schreck.
No,
No,
I
I've
haven't
never
even
seen
seen.
It's
I haven't even seen the '70s Nosferatu yet.
I'll get to it. But yeah, Shadow.
I'm gonna make sure Austin's there for that one.
Oh,
that.
boy.
No.
No, Shadow the Vampire is cool. It's like a fictional, um, it's kind of a biopic about the making of Nosferatu, except people are like, is this Max Shrek guy? Like, is he actually a fucking vampire? And Willem Dafoe's performance is really funny because he plays him as just like a pervy weirdo who can't act. Like he's really good at it. Like, see, Mina's fine. She looks happy. No problem.
She's not dead. She's happy.
Jonathan, you fucking idiot.
Whoa, John, what did you do now?
The other Jonathan.
He's always attacking me.
I'm fed up with this world.
He said you harked her? I don't know, he just said Jonathan Harker. I was like, what do you mean he harked her?
I barely know her.
Exactly.
John, look at the frogs. I can't. We couldn't afford insert shots.
Jonathan, look, that strange dog is back. Look in the distance. Jonathan, which dress should I wear? The yellow dress or the red dress? Which one's which?
He's lying. Nobody likes fog.
Martin's shooting at the bed on my end. He's just hanging out with some nurse that he's banging.
How they can chase that bat was a mistake because it looks like he's gonna run into the wall of the set.
It does. He's trying his best.
Whoa, Martin just disappeared into the darkness.
He's gonna come up the stairs like Mia in RE7.
Oh, they're gonna say like Nosferatu.
I haven't seen the new one.
That's it from the old one, you bastard. It's like the most famous shot.
Oh.
Where he's like, he's doing the Thriller.
No, it's
Wouldn't it be more accurate to say that Michael Jackson was doing the Nosferatu?
No.
You.
No, they were inspired by the King.
Yeah, Austin mentioned it earlier where I was saying with a lot of these adaptations, some characters get a bit shortchanged or cut or combined. Like this is the one where Renfield's great, but Jonathan, he doesn't really get anything to do. But that's what I really loved about the new Nosferatu is I feel like that more than any other adaptation does a really great job balancing all the supporting cast and making sure everybody gets kind of equal screen time.
Yeah, I think
even
the
the Coppola
Coppola film
movies struggle.
tried, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they tried, but like it didn't quite nail the balance.
Mm. And the Hammer one, they're like, "Fuck it, we're using characters."
The Hammer one's like, fuck it, everyone's named Paul now.
That's where Marvel Editorial got the idea.
Yeah.
Zeb Wells is just a really
Count
big
Paul.
Zeb Wells is just a big Hammer horror fan.
Of course.
And here are my wives, Paul, George, and Ringo.
I love the fact that the plot of this movie is
in love with the broads.
I love that the basic plot of this movie is that Dracula has 3 brides, but he wants a 4th one.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
No.
No, the plot of this movie is literally, I want another bride, and all these British people are like, what? Monogamy is a sin. We need to kill this foreigner.
Wouldn't it be? That would be monogamy.
Or not monogamy. What? Polyamorous.
Yeah.
Whatever.
The Brits are like having one spouse is a crime.
No, sorry, it's the other way around.
Kill them.
And Renfield's like a beta simp.
Oh,
who
we
can't
get
have any wives.
We get another confused Dracula look.
Yay.
Woohoo.
But Robert, I do agree with you. This back half is dragging like a lot for me.
Yeah.
Dracula,
But,
do something besides stand there and look confused.
On my end, Dracula has a sword. So every time you complain that things are boring, I'm like, I'm watching some cool stuff. Oh,
but
oh
yeah.
no! I think the sword I thought he was holding was just the way the light was hitting his cape.
What
It
did
made
you
it look
think he
like he
had a
was holding the
lightsaber?
sword. No, it was just it made it like light gray, like there's like a light gray strip coming from his hand, and I was like, oh, he's got like a dagger, a sword. And Dracula's running around with me and him.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Which of course all goes back to Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yeah,
Get
John.
Robert
This
Eggers
is.
to remake that.
I don't know if we need it, but
Yeah, I don't really need a
it would
remake of
be.
that movie, but he would probably make it cool, but
I'd watch it.
that movie's
Hey,
perfect as it
Jared.
is.
Eh,
Yes.
eh.
I
There
don't.
goes our credibility.
That review's a funny one, Robert, because it's John and Noah being like, yeah, "This movie's good. I don't know. I probably wouldn't watch it again." And I'm like, "This movie's the greatest thing ever made."
It's a rare occasion.
It is as good as Howling to Sturba Werewolf Bitch.
Exactly. Maybe a little under Howling 2, Stir a Werewolf Bitch, but
Robert,
still
you cut
pretty
out
high
there
up
for a
there.
second. I thought you said Halloween too, and I was like, "What? What?"
No, that's what I thought you said at first until you said Stir a Werewolf Bitch. Then I knew what you were saying.
I just thought he combined the two titles.
Now me now walk down these stairs.
Do not trip.
Oh fuck! There's no guardrail. Shit.
Ah!
um,
This
He
set
does.
is fucking awesome.
He does the Wilhelm, but with a deep Hungarian accent.
so Austin, just kind of a random question, I suppose. This whole castle set that they have. Do you think this is where kind of Capcom took some of the inspiration for the castle of RE4?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Castlevania. I mean, yeah, that game's very much looking at the universal monsters between like the vampires, the werewolves,
Yeah,
all
I
I've
that
think
never
stuff.
played Castlevania, so I don't know anything about that.
the first
And that
time I
wasn't
saw this
Capcom.
movie, the first time I saw this movie, this part did confuse me because I didn't realize that this was Carfax Abbey. Like I thought we were back at the castle for some reason. I didn't realize that
I
this was
thought
a
we were at
separate
Castle
location.
too.
Oh, don't kill Renfield. He's the best character. Fuck. He did the Family Guy roll down the stairs.
Dracula did the Austin Powers judo chop and killed him.
And of course, we got the monster carrying the pretty lady.
Yeah, that's
Which
the
will
one I was
happen many a
saying.
time.
That's what I was talking about with the Caligari thing.
And I don't know if this is a deliberate design choice because these are all sets, not real locations, but those archways look very similar to the ones in Nosferatu.
Yeah, it's probably an inspiration. I just got to the ending. I love how it's like, we killed him. Oh, thank you. The end.
The end. What about Lucy? It's fine. she's feasting on children. Yeah.
Fuck it. Now it's saying watch it in a colorized version, and the picture they have as a thumbnail is Bela Lugosi in a close-up, and he just looks like he has jaundice.
Oh.
I wonder how that movie looks in color. It can't look great.
No.
It can't because it wasn't a color movie.
Son of Frankenstein is almost a color movie.
I think the only color Universal monster film is Phantom of the Opera, right?
Yeah, the one big one, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at like screenshots of the movie in color. You're right.
His colorized version isn't even loading.
Yeah, this does. It's funny because it's different from the book, but you get to the end of this, it's like, oh, this is kind of anticlimactic. Dracula just hides in his coffin. They're like, just yeah, dead. That was
Hey,
easy.
yeah.
Just judo chopped
Renfield gets up, he gets his revenge. He's like, no, master, I chop you.
But that does kind of persist in a lot of these, though, where it's like, yeah, I don't know, that's the thing that puts Frankenstein above these, both Frankenstein and Bride, because those have awesome climaxes.
Mhm.
Frankenstein's just a little hurt by kind of a tacked on happy ending.
Yeah, which is a weird thing where like that hurts Frankenstein as a movie for me. But then obviously Bride, is amazing and I love it more than the first one. But even then, like when I still watch the first film, it still hurts it while I'm watching it, even though I know it gives me Bride.
Mhm.
Especially now that I know that they didn't even get the actors back for that ending.
And do they switch out the actress who plays his wife too
For
in
the
Bride?
second
I don't
movie?
remember.
Probably. I don't remember though.
Dracula's dead forever. Well, that was a fucking lie.
I mean, kind of in this reality.
Yeah, Lugosi comes back one more time.
Yeah, through the power of Abbott and Costello. That's not canon.
It's canon. Fuck you. Also, though, Lugosi weirdly, I don't know if John knows this. He did play a vampire again in a couple of movies that just weren't Universal, that weren't Dracula. But I would like to watch those at some point.
Yeah,
Let's
same
see if they're
here.
any good.
Interesting.
But yeah, his final official time playing Dracula is Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
His second and last.
His second and last. But that's the big thing that hurts House of Frankenstein. I mean, that's not a great movie anyway, but still, Boris Karloff's a lot of fun as a mad doctor in that. And it's cool. And then, of course, you get Lon Chaney as the Wolfman. But if you just had Lugosi as Dracula, like that would elevate that movie quite a bit. Just to have everybody there,
Everybody's at the house.
Everybody's at with Corey in the house.
That's a crossover I want to see. Is Corey in the House of Frankenstein?
All right. Well, that has been the 1931 Dracula. We're going to take maybe a 5-ish minute break. Then we'll hop into the horror of Dracula.
The
So,
horror.
Yeah. So stay tuned and we'll be back.
And I will see you guys later.
Yeah, have a good one.
Cool.
Yeah, say it.
And then there were two. And I am. Hope everyone's doing good. Ready to watch some Hammer Dracula?
Welcome back, everyone. You're gonna have to give us a minute. All the screens are gonna be broken.
I cannot hear.
Well, as long as it's all about you,
Yeah, it
we're
is.
gonna be a second here because Austin leaving broke all the things. But the important news is that I made proper hot chocolate, not like that Canadian sludge.
Oh, you were
Mm.
really hung up on that.
It's disgusting. It hot chocolate with water is like drinking hot water that just has a little bit of a chocolate aftertaste. I don't know about you. I don't like drinking hot water. I forgot you can't
Floats your boat.
have hot chocolate. So how un-American of you.
Yeah, it's true. But traitor to my kind.
Would it be your kind? Wouldn't it be your country? Your kind would be humanity.
I've heard it both ways.
No, you haven't.
I object.
Jarrett's going to a Comic Con. What kind of Comic Con? A quiet weekend, says. You gotta come watch Deathly Hallows with us.
Yeah, it's only 4.5 hours.
I feel like when I went to see part 2 in theaters, I got lucky and got like a double ship feature. So they like replayed the first one and then played the second one.
That's cool.
But that was so long ago, I could be wrong. No, because I remember they also did a like all 8 movie kind of event. It's like I cannot stay at the theater that long. I wanted to go though.
Yeah, the only two, not counting Fantastic Beasts, the only two Harry Potter movies I actually got to see in theaters were both Deathly Hallows movies.
Oh, okay. See, I got lucky because I saw all of them in theaters until
Yeah.
Fantastic Beasts. Because by the time those were coming out, I don't care. But no, from Sorcerer's Stone to Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah, not to get too sidetracked on a Harry Potter.
I'm fixing up OBS. It's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, no, I had kind of a say messy, just kind of a sporadic, like getting into that series, like watching it, just because I had limited access. Where it's like the first movie I saw at one friend's house, and then the second movie I borrowed from another friend, and then a third movie. Like it was difficult for me to kind of seek out and watch those. And then there's like a 2-year gap where I just miss like I remember when Half Blood Prince was coming out and I was behind, and then finally caught up. But around, or it was right before when Deathly Hallows part 1 came out in theaters, when I got the first 6 on DVD, and that made it a lot easier to rewatch them and prepare for the last 2.
No, I remember being so excited for Sorcerer's Stone because I'd caught up on the books at that point. Because they were only up to Goblet in the books. So I don't care what they say. They didn't put any foreshadowing in some of those movies. Any more than J.K. Rowling did.
That is true. Did you keep up with those on home video? Or were you getting those as they were coming out on DVD?
I had the first 2 on VHS.
Nice. Yeah, I had some friends who had them on VHS. I had the first one on DVD, and that's the only one I owned for several years until I finally got that box set of the first 6.
And then I feel like I didn't keep up after a certain point. And then just when I started getting paid, I just paid and bought like a really nice steelbook set. But I don't think I had all of them on DVD, but I did have the first 4.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of my viewings of those movies were just whenever I could catch them on ABC Family. on TV.
I remember
Because
those too.
for people who don't know, this is before the streaming days. You were at the mercy of what was available physically or whatever you could catch on television.
I think I've seen Goblet of Fire like 100 times on ABC Family.
Yeah.
And I don't love that movie, but I do love I think that has maybe my second favorite third act of any of them.
Oh, it's good.
That graveyard scene is just so good.
So good. For some reason I feel like Chamber of Secrets is when they showed the most. I just feel like I watched that one a lot on TV.
Mm-hmm. Probably because I think that's one of the last ones that's really Christmassy. It's like Goblet's not Christmassy.
Yeah, well, a lot of them get like the one token Christmassy. Like with Goblet, it's the ball, but that's it. There's like no Christmassy stuff outside of that.
Yeah. And I mean, none of them are Christmas movies, I would think, despite being on ABC every year. But in the other ones, things happen at Christmas.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna finally try to reread the books this week.
Oh, cool.
Might as well, right? I've just been in the mood for that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it.
I haven't thought about Harry Potter in a long time. Like, I've never disliked Harry Potter. It's just like, yeah, I haven't been in the mood for it. And then it hit me a couple months ago and it hasn't left my brain.
Okay, the problem for me is there's like 3 things I've been in the mood for. Now you need to pick one. Because it's like, well, I feel like going through Harry Potter. I also feel like watching all the Star Wars movies again. Which one do I pick?
Harry Potter.
It's probably the better. Star Wars would probably.
You don't have to watch the sequels. You want to catch up on chat while I'm finishing this?
Yeah, for sure. Jareth just said that it's a medium-sized con, and that the Comic-Con that he's going to this weekend, and that the biggest guest they're getting is Amy Jo Johnson. That's the
that's
Power
cool,
Rangers girl, right?
Yeah, that was like 90% of boys my age's like first crush.
I hear that a lot. I completely missed that in the 90s. That's like just before my time, so that's not somebody I'm super familiar with. But you're not alone.
And I won't say it was like anything major because I was like 5, but you know, she was cute.
Jareth just mentioned
ILXY.
I've
heard
dude,
of that.
I remember that.
I've heard of that show, but I've never seen it.
I've never seen it, but I remember seeing the ads a million times on AMC Family.
I remember the ads, and I wanted to watch it because it kind of gave me Smallville vibes.
Yeah, does that feel like that was ABC Family trying to get on the CW level?
Because I've heard that is also about a teenage boy who's also an alien.
Yeah, is that the one where like he doesn't have a belly button or something? And that
I think
like,
so.
God,
it's like, oh, he must be an alien.
This freak of nature.
But I've also heard it got canceled, so I never really like thought to go back.
Yeah.
And I feel like I would have had to watch that at the time when I was still like, oh, Smallville's one of the best shows ever. Yeah, like, I still like Smallville, but I recognize the problems. I don't know if I could start a new show like that now, because I wouldn't be able to overlook those problems.
Yeah, exactly. No, my time watching ABC Family was entirely just sitcom reruns and Harry Potter movies. That was the extent of my ABC Family.
I have watched so much like Reba on ABC Family that I think I kind of like that show. It like beat me into submission. Like, you will like this show.
But anyway, so are you ready to experience the horror of Dracula?
I am. Let's move the timer right there. All right, we are gonna All right, this is our commentary for the 1958 remake of Dracula, titled "Horror of Dracula." Is that just here in the states?
That's just here in the states. So this is the first one of the first big Hammer movies,
Hmm.
and this was a British production adaptation of Dracula. And when they released it in America, they changed the title to Horror of Dracula because they didn't want people confusing it with the Universal one, which I find kind of strange, just because it's another adaptation of a pretty well-known popular book, and this is almost 30 years later. So I don't know. It's kind of weird that, but in hindsight, now that we've had countless Dracula adaptations, it's kind of nice to have one with kind of a unique title.
Yeah, no,
So
this
many
is
of these
fun.
are just called Dracula.
Yeah, and kind of I feel like an overlooked one because it hasn't been available widely for a long time.
Right. You really got to seek this out.
Like I feel
It's
like
not
people know that there was a movie with Christopher Lee as Dracula. I don't know if they know it's this one.
right. But to your point, I think he's more remembered for just being Dracula and the franchise than he's remembered for one individual movie.
Yeah. All right, everybody get to timestamp 0 in 3, 2, 1, play. And obviously, this is more of how I prefer Dracula: the atmosphere, the tone, the look. I can't hear you.
Okay. Sorry. I love this opening credits sequence. Just the establishes shot. Just I love this font. Just the blood red titles. Immediately, it's a really great distinction from the Universal one, where that's so gothic and black and white and classy and iconic. This is such a perfect kind of contrast to that, where there's just so much color and it's so vibrant. It's really
Mhm.
cool.
And I feel like in terms of set design and production, this has all of the positives of the Universal movie without many or any of the negatives. This doesn't look cheap in it at any point. I don't ever feel like a actor is going to run into the set wall.
Yeah. uh, well, yeah, I have that a little bit, but it's fine.
But we'll
it
see
does
if
a
this
lot
changes
with
on
what they
this
have.
viewing.
Yeah, because this was not a super expensive movie. The Hammer movies, at least at the start, didn't have big budgets.
Mm-hmm.
The Universal was a very big, quality studio production. But this does a lot with what they have, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting too because this comes out, on the cusp of the '60s. Uh, but this looks like a '60s movie
Yes, absolutely.
in many ways. You might say it's ahead of its time.
Hmm.
Oh my
Who's
God, Dracula!
who's dripping paint on my coffin?
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of retract what I said, but not completely, because I forgot there's that one shot of Dracula that's supposed to have like blood on his lips, but it looks like somebody just kind of painted red on him.
Yeah. Well, the Hammer blood is just so vibrant and very distinct. Like it doesn't look like real blood, but that is part of the charm. Like
I'm
it's
really
fine.
curious when we get there because Buffy does a Dracula episode too, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is interesting to compare and contrast this with the Universal version, because this goes back to the book with Jonathan Harker now going to the castle to see
This
Dracula,
guy sounds like
but
he's
then
going to tell me about the Book of the Dead.
the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. But then this movie goes in a very different direction with him and why he's there. This is by far one of the more loose adaptations of the book.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's always interesting when a character or a novel like this in film kind of takes a mind of its own. Like you almost don't think of these as adaptations of a book. It's just, oh, it's a Dracula movie.
Right. This set is charming. I think this is the cheapest set in this movie. Like this looks like a play, where it's like, we got some archways, we got some curtains. I don't know. It's exotic, I guess. I, I, I don't hate it.
And then, of course, Tim Burton is looking at these for
Yeah.
Sleepy Hollow.
Well, and which who we'll get to later. The Hammer movies are why he casts Michael Gough as Alfred, who is in this movie.
Oh, that's right. I've only seen this once.
Oh, nice. Now this set's pretty cool. I like this main. You got the staircase, just classic castle set. But so far our first big departure from the book is Dracula's not buying land. He's not moving anywhere. Jonathan's here because he's hired as like his new librarian or something. He's just supposed to work here. Which is an odd change, but for being such a simplified version of this story, I mean, it works fine. Your dearest Dracula.
I'm greatly disappointed there's never been a time in my life where I've been served food that comes in a giant silver bowl that I have to lift.
One day.
Movies taught me that would be a lot more common.
This guy looks like he could have played Alfred, like 10 or 20 years past this.
And I love Cushing as Van Helsing. I think he's great.
He's perfect. Yeah.
Let me just tell you, it blew my mind when I learned that these two were in a Dracula movie together. Because Tarkin and fucking Dooku were in the Dracula movie. I gotta see that.
Yeah, George Lucas was also a fan of these Hammer movies.
Because of course, I know Lee from the prequels and Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and here we have Dracula's mistress. I guess she's not really a bride, but it's like it's like the Three Brides, but just as one character.
Mm-hmm. Which honestly, I think is fine.
Right, it makes sense.
The Three Brides has always seemed excessive. None of them are characters in the Universal movie.
No.
And even in something like Van Helsing, to bring that up again because it has the brides, I think one of them talks and the other two just make weird noises.
Them talk. But
What's
there is
that?
a hierarchy. Two of them talk. But there's a hierarchy in their importance in that movie.
Is it about to change?
I love how awkward this scene is. She's like, "Rescue me," and then she just runs off.
He doesn't give a fuck. This is a great introduction shot for Dracula.
Yeah, his presence is wonderful.
It's a shame that Lee kind of hated making these.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what what happened was what he was worried would happen, and just getting stuck in a role and having to do the same thing over and over again, which is a shame. But then you look at kind of the long run of his career and all the cool stuff he got to do later. I'd say it worked out for him.
Did you know he made a heavy metal album?
He did.
In his 90s?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because he's already kind of got gray hair here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not a young guy here by any means.
He's kind of like Patrick Stewart, where you were gray for 50 years.
Yeah, I want to say Burton gets him out of retirement for his cameo in a Sleepy Hollow, I think. But then after that, he does, Lord of the Rings, the prequels. He really gets back.
I didn't know he was technically retired at the time.
He may have been for a few years. I think there It's kind of a low period where he's not doing much.
Mhm.
But just in terms of what he's remembered for, he's remembered for these Dracula movies in the 50s and 60s, and then he's remembered for stuff in the 2000s, and then there's a lot of kind of gray in between that.
I love Ian McKellen, but I think Christopher Lee would have made a great Magneto.
Oh, absolutely. Now, how do you feel about the choice of him not even attempting an accent? He's just like, I'm British, European Dracula.
You kind of lose that like immigration
Exotic.
thing. Just fine.
His performance is so good that I don't care.
Yeah. And Walter's well spoken in the book, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I would like to watch more Hammer movies, though. I've only seen a few. I think for me personally, just because I'm more nostalgic for it, I prefer the Universal look. Just the black and white classic Gothic stuff. But the Hammer movies certainly have a cool. It is iconic, but these movies also have a cool, distinct atmosphere.
I will say the one time where I'm like, yeah, your design kind of sucks for this is Frankenstein. But I think that's also because the monster is such an afterthought in that movie.
Yeah, and then that's what makes that franchise interesting is we don't keep the monster for the sequels, we keep Peter Cushing as Dr. Frankenstein for the sequels. Like, that's kind of cool.
Say it with me. He is the villain of the story.
I don't know this story.
Jareth says also the Wicker Man.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't see
Wicker Man. He's in a lot of stuff.
Well, and with Wicker Man, that's kind of an unfortunate thing where I think now, at least main audiences, remember the weird remake with Nick Cage.
Yep.
Where he punches a guy in a bear suit.
It's a lady in a bear suit.
Or a lady in a bear suit. Oh, I forgot to reset the timer. Oh well. It says we're at like an hour and a half in. That can't be true. It's fine.
It's fine. See, this is what happens when I don't remind you about the timer, John.
I told you, and you're like, I'm not your keeper.
Yeah. Do you want to just remove the timer? Can you do that?
Might as well.
Just so it's less distracting. But now this is
I've never gotten Jonathan Harker right. Like I don't remember this one, so I'm kind of waiting to see. But even with him, I'm kind of like, bring Dracula back.
Great. Yeah, no, there are two Jonathans I really like. The one in the Frank Langella 1979 one, I think is really good. I think that's
I gotta rewatch
stands
that.
out. And then I think the new best though has got to be Nicholas Hoult in the new Nosferatu.
Oh yeah.
He's great.
Well, we can't forget the best one, Keanu Reeves.
Keanu, who is adorable. He's trying.
I really wish they just allowed him to play that like Bill and Ted. Whoa, dude. Dracula.
As bad as Keanu is, I'd still put him over like the Universal Jonathan just because that's just such a nothing character. And then this guy, it's fine.
He's fine. He's got a very punchable face.
Oh yeah, big time. But this is another like, okay, we're really going off book. Is he is secretly here on a mission from Van Helsing to kill Dracula, which is not a thing.
I gotta be honest. I kind of dig this idea.
I don't hate that change. That could be cool to revisit.
Well, and what's weird, because like Universal tried so hard to make a cinematic universe. This is how you do it. It's Van Helsing puts a team together, and they go and face monsters.
Yep.
I don't understand why this was so hard.
Well, and we both enjoy that Hugh Jackman Van Helsing movie, for what it is. But I mean, I'm perfectly happy with it. But it is really weird that like, why would you put that all into one movie? Just make the Van Helsing versus Dracula movie, then they make the Frankenstein, then make the Wolfman movie. Why would you put that all in one movie? Because then what do you do in a sequel?
I do kind of like how they kind of connect all those mythologies. Like the
Me too.
werewolf is the only thing that can kill Dracula. He needs Frankenstein to power this machine to bring his kids to life.
Yeah, I still like it. You know.
Well, for the sequel, you just do like the Mummy or the Invisible Man, or
It's just that you just can't go anywhere up from Dracula.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, in a perfect world, if that had gotten a sequel, I would have just brought Dracula back and have him work with the monsters you didn't use last time.
Yeah, that could be.
Also, I love, like, CGI aside, I love the idea of that movie's werewolf transformation, where like the skin literally just rips off.
Yeah.
So is this supposed to be Mina?
No, this is just a Dracula bride, kind of. Yeah. He's gonna fall for it, bro.
It reminds me of in the Dracula episode of Buffy, they do have the three brides, and Giles falls for it. Oh my god.
And these shots of him are pretty iconic.
Yeah. I love that this Dracula has no subtlety at all.
No, he has dropped the trade fast. Judo chop him. Fight back, Jonathan.
Yeah, that blood looks rough.
Again, it's fine. Get used to that with Hammer.
Doesn't bother me. I've certainly seen worse. Honestly, I would say this is ambitious for 58.
Oh yeah, like the version I'm watching is unrated, so I don't know if like that's just how it was released everywhere at the time, which is pretty surprising. And this is early too. Like a lot of the Hammer movies are from the 60s. I mean, this is 58. This is one of the early ones.
Mm-hmm.
Right off the bat, we're seeing more blood and stuff than you're kind of used to from this era.
Yeah, so it's Van Helsing is kind of like Daredevil 2 or 3 movies in one.
Oh, that's absolutely. That's just how he used to make those movies.
We didn't know if we were going to get a sequel, so it's just let's do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Also, kind of by elimination, my favorite Wolfman movie. Because I don't like the Universal one, and I don't like that remake. Even though thematically it has nothing to do with the Wolfman.
Do you still need to see American Werewolf in London?
No, that's just the best werewolf
movie. Right. Yeah.
But I mean specifically like the Universal Wolfman.
The Universal Wolfman, yeah.
I do, however, need to see American Werewolf in Paris. I don't know if I want to, but no, I love werewolves. They're kind of my go-to creature over like vampires. But there's like one great movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think werewolves are awesome, but then I think back, I'm like, okay, how many good ones are there? I mean, I like the Universal one fine, and I actually like the remake more than you do. I think there's good stuff in it. It just doesn't live up to its full potential.
It has a great werewolf design.
It does. Like that asylum scene's pretty awesome.
Right.
But yeah, just the movie as a whole just doesn't live up to what it could have been. And now we've got a new one. We'll get back to you on that later.
My hopes aren't up. And it's sad because from what I've seen, it sounds like this is more of like The Fly, but with the Wolfman, which I think is a cool idea. It's a Blumhouse movie.
Right. And it's also, it's just The Shining again.
Yeah. Stop it.
Stop. Get some help, Blumhouse.
If your pitch is It's this and The Shining. Stop it. It's
If
tired.
your
It's
pitch,
done.
it, if your pitch is evil swimming pool plus The Shining, don't make that movie.
If that's your pitch, maybe kill yourself or unalive yourself.
Oh god.
So I don't have to watch it again. This guy really does sound like the guy that voices Nobi in the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah,
I can't unhear it now.
To release my soul. So, Jonathan, you've done a shit job hunting Dracula. You were found out in like an hour, and you've gotten bit already. You dumb bastard.
You know who I think would make a great Dracula, and I'm so sad we haven't done anything with it yet? Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh yeah, that's obvious. It's like, oh,
What are you waiting for?
Well, he's someone that just gets typecast as villains so much, and I just want to see him get, more opportunities and more variety. But he's also typecast as villains in a lot of bad stuff. It's like, just somebody give him something good, please.
We gotta do something on Hannibal soon. I really want to rewatch that.
Do we have Manhunter and Red Dragon on the wheel? Because if not, we
do
should.
now.
Yay! The wheel we keep adding to it. We have made no progress.
That's not true. We remove one and then add one. We
have more there than when we started. Probably.
We can always take a break at some point.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm enjoying this series.
I'm gonna delete Cabin Fever because I don't want to rewatch the original right now.
That's fine.
But no, he's so, because I really resisted when they made that Hannibal show. I was like, you're not gonna surpass Anthony Hopkins. And then I watched it, and that's the first time that I watched an entire season of television in one sitting. It was that good.
Nice.
Oh, and here we have the hammer with the stake.
Yep.
Get it? Because it's Hammer Films.
That shadow's great.
It's so good. We love a good shadow shot.
And okay, but this poor my guy. Why would you stake her first and not Dracula? The guy, this is on him.
Have you seen Fright Night?
I have seen Fright Night.
That's a great vampire flick.
It's great. It's the first big, to me, like modern reinvention vampire movie where it's not literally Dracula, it's in modern day, because after Fright Night's when you get The Lost Boys and John Carpenter's Vampires, all those movies.
I like Fright Night way better than Lost Boys.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I like both.
I do like Lost Boys. I've only seen it once, but I do like it.
Well, in Fright Night's in that gray area where, I mean, I would certainly not call it a Dracula adaptation by any means, but if you just look at like the basic bones of what that movie is, it's like it's Dracula meets Rear Window. Like that's what it is. It still hits kind of the big. Like,
you know who directed that?
Renfield type character. Was that John Landis?
No.
Tom Holland.
Yes.
Not the Spider-Man Tom Holland.
No, but Tom Holland, the other Tom Holland, his career is interesting because he makes that and Child's Play like back to back, and then nothing good after that I could see.
Well, before those, he is also the writer of Psycho 2.
Oh,
which I'm making you watch next week.
That I'm interested because I think he writes for Fright Night too. He doesn't. I don't think he does Child's Play because that's all Don Mancini, as far as I'm like. That is his,
Yeah.
franchise.
Well, my understanding of Child's Play 1, it's like that's Don Mancini's script, but
Other
people kind of muck with it, and then
yes, because
Tom Holland directs
his
it, and it kind of
script
becomes his vision.
because his script does not have the voodoo aspect. Because Austin always argues with me that like the remake is closer to what Mancini originally envisioned, where it's just like a rogue doll computer. But I was like, yeah, but like I don't know what made that franchise cool is the voodoo aspect, and clearly Mancini leaned into it because he just doubled down on it.
Well, because from Child's Play 2 on, like that's his franchise. Like he has complete creative control over it.
Poor Cabin Fever. We did the first one.
We already did a commentary on the first one. It's fun. And here we have my favorite Van Helsing, Peter Cushing, who's just perfect.
I mean, is there any competition? I like the one in the Universal, but
I like him, Willem Dafoe, in the new Nosferatu. Right?
Can't wait for you to see it. I gotta see that.
And I like Anthony Hopkins a lot. He's weird and insane, but I enjoy.
I forgot he's in that.
Yep, he's 90s Van Helsing. And then Hugh Jackman's in there somewhere.
He's like 2 or 3. It's Wolverine, but
it's Wolverine.
I like Wolverine.
I do too.
I wonder if anybody on the set like actually had seen X-Men. I was like, oh, we're just writing Wolverine.
I wonder if he thought that. Like, at what point did it? Like when he got the script or when he was shooting, at what point did it hit Hugh Jackman? Oh, I'm just playing Wolverine. I already did this.
I want to imagine there's a deleted scene where one of his weapons is just like claws that come out of his fists, and he's like, wait a minute.
I mean, he has like the spinning blade things. But they spin, so it's different.
It is. We have Wolverine at home.
Yeah. My best friend who introduced me to Van Helsing when we were kids, because he was big on the Universal Monsters, he had like the whole action figure line in like the Dracula Castle playset.
So cool.
Van Helsing movie. It was so awesome. I'm curious if his family still has those, because it was.
I saw that in theaters.
Nice.
I didn't know anything about the Universal Monsters other than the Burger King toys at one point when I was a kid. I was like, oh, this looks awesome.
Were you into Buffy yet at that point?
I knew of Buffy, but I was not a fan. As a kid, Buffy was just that weird talkie show that my mom kept watching. I get into it as a teenager, and then I rewatched it a couple years ago because Cap and I showed Austin the pilot and was like, I'll keep watching. And I was like, oh, this is just things that I like all crunched into one thing.
And of course, if we're talking Dracula movies, obviously Blade Trinity. That's a popular one.
The best Dracula. Who is obsessed with the word motherfucker.
God. Yeah, that's the one I slated to watch.
Yeah, no, there's this really weird. I'm not going to consider it a spoiler because line of dialogue in that movie is 20 years old. But Blade has this usual one-liners I was born ready, motherfucker, or something. And Dracula's response is, motherfucker. I like it. It's what? No, the best thing about Blade Trinity is watching Cap not realize that Dracula in that is the guy from Legends.
Oh, no.
Heatwave.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Look at the state of this room. What fucked up weird shit went on in here?
Parker, if you don't answer, I'm going to get the Death Star on you. Mm.
Something has happened here. Jonathan.
Hang on, Mary Jane.
And like we were talking about in the previous commentary, there's just always give and take with these adaptations. Some characters are always cut or shortchanged, but they really nail other ones. Where the Universal one, Renfield's such a standout. He's one of the best parts of that movie, and this one cuts Renfield entirely. It's one of the only adaptations I've seen just cut it completely, and I don't really miss him while I'm watching it. Like, I guess it works fine for this version, but yeah, you don't get a Renfield at all. This is a very cut down. Many liberties are taken with this adaptation. Because in this one now, Jonathan's a vampire and is gonna get killed by Van Helsing. It's like, oh, we're doing something very different.
I think that's what I like about this one. It's just it's so different. It
Mhm.
manages to be the most unique, straight adaptation of Dracula.
But would you say it's a good adaptation?
Adaptation, no.
Hey, and there's Alfred.
I would put this in the Shining category where I recognize it's a bad adaptation. The Shining annoys me more because I love the book, but it's like it's a good movie. Jareth, I saw Van Helsing in the theater, and I still have those BK Kids meals. I'm missing one of them. Oh, that sucks. Which one are you
Same.
missing?
You could probably find it on eBay.
Have you seen those? They're pretty neat.
Those I haven't. I don't think I've seen those before or even knew about them. Dude, I was in terms of Happy Meal toys, I was big on like the ones during the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole episode 3 line.
I
You
don't
were
remember
probably
those.
too old for those by that
I
point.
was in middle school at that point. What I remember is the Taco Bell cups from episode 1. Do you remember
Those
those?
are huge. Yeah, I have a friend who still has one. But this version though has kind of a psycho structure to it, where we get a fake out protagonist for the first like 20 minutes, and then kill them off and shift gears to another protagonist. I wonder if that was at all.
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I have seen these.
I didn't know what the fuck to make of the like Swamp Thing one, or not Swamp Thing, Creature from the Black
The
Lagoon,
creature.
because I didn't know any of the Universal monsters. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh,
Yeah,
he
my
thinks it's
my friend had a
Frankenstein.
couple of those. But this is though where some of the changes get weird from the book, because in
Mm.
this one, so Jonathan's A, now dead, and B, was engaged to Lucy instead of Mina. But for all intents and purposes, Lucy in this movie is still Lucy from the book. But then we have Arthur Homewood, who is now married to Mina in this version. Are you with me so far?
What, what the fuck? That's so
Why are you
weird.
right?
No, it's just like, here, we'll just take these characters and like
Scramble 'em.
sacrifice them.
I don't know. Yeah, and the Universal one, like that didn't have um an Arthur Homewood at all, who's the guy who ends up getting engaged to Lucy, before she dies, and he has to kill her. So the Universal one cuts Arthur completely. You get him here, and you get Dr. Seward. Dr. Seward's in both, except now in this one, Arthur's married to Mina.
Strange.
Strange. There's a couple. I like the 1979 Dracula, Franklin. I like that one a lot, and that's a. I guess I'd say that that's a more faithful adaptation than this one, except they switch again. They switch me and Lucy's names for some reason, and I don't know why.
With something like this from this era, I guess I find some of that charming. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you tried."
Well, and this is a very loose adaptation. I mean, there's no Renfield. We're changed a lot anyway. It's less jarring here. And then I guess a big important thing that this movie does is it goes back to the original Nosferatu inspiration, where they bring back the idea from that of sunlight being deadly to vampires. And I guess you should probably give this movie a lot of credit for bringing that idea back and then it sticking.
Mhm.
You know, because now people they're just like, oh yeah, sunlight kills vampires. That's in
Now you
so
can't
many
make a
versions of
movie
these.
without,
Addressing that.
which I like. I like the whole creature of the night.
Mm-hmm. I do like the way it is in the book though, and I wouldn't mind seeing more version of that where it's like, no, he can walk around fine in the daylight. He's just less powerful. He's just more powerful
So
which
I
was
will
the
say,
original idea.
Blade does make him a day.
That's true. And that's an idea too when you get into like the more the vampire human hybrid idea. Like, oh, here's like the things he can do that a real or I guess a pure vampire can't.
Mhm.
You know, that's kind of interesting.
Honestly, the ones that we kind of forget about, I feel like, is like garlic or uh, crosses.
Garlic's referenced a lot, crosses sometimes. The thing
Typically,
we
we
almost
just
never
stick it to
do.
like sunlight, and steaks.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. And also because well, because you know the some of these are very Catholic things, like the cross, and in conjunction with that, in the book, you also get the communion wafers.
Mhm.
Those are also used as a weapon against Dracula, and you see that in very few adaptations.
Yeah. I just had this thought where Dracula's kind of like King Kong in a way, where we keep kind of remaking that same movie, but then you get a movie that kind of breaks that mold. For Kong, it's Skull Island, which is not it's the only one of them that does it remaking that original movie. And then
Mhm.
this one, which is the only one that's not really an adaptation of either the book or the Lugosi movie.
But it just kind of cherry picks elements from both and
Yeah.
Nosferatu. And then with King Kong, now the MonsterVerse stuff, now you have like a franchise that I guess you could say is kind of comparable to what this became,
Yeah.
with the Hammer franchise. Dracula must be destroyed.
Hold down the fort. I'll be right back.
And like I said, Christopher Lee's just got such great presence. He was a really tall man, and his silhouette's just so cool. He has a very Darth Vader look to him. I don't know if this was ever considered, but as great as Sebastian Shaw was at the end of Return of the Jedi, I will say I've always thought if we got to see more of Anakin or Vader outside of the costume in Return of the Jedi, I think Christopher Lee would have been perfect casting. I think he was the right age. He had that right deep voice. He had the right height. Where it's like I could just picture him in the suit. Whereas with Sebastian Shaw, like I can't picture him in that costume in the previous two movies. But his performance is still great. It's just a thing I've thought of since Lucas would eventually work with Lee in the prequels as Count Dooku, which is my introduction to him. I like Count Dooku. I don't mind him. I could just totally picture Christopher Lee just in that Darth Vader suit. Like he's kind of more what I picture as Anakin looking like that, in that later stage of his life. Yeah, and Mina in this one, again, now married to Arthur and has aged up quite a bit. This is the oldest version of Mina I've seen in the adaptation. But then when you get to the end, is still kind of the same Mina from the book, so it's just a weird mishmash. But in terms of, so let's see, like looking at these as adaptations, like with the Universal one, you get Dracula, Renfield, The Brides, Mina, Lucy, Dr. Seward, uh, Jonathan, and Van Helsing. You get them all represented. And this one, the Hammer film, you get Dracula, just one bride, really. Mina, Lucy, Jonathan, Arthur, and Van Helsing, and I guess Dr. Seward. So it's just so kind of similar in the amount of characters. We pick different ones. Like the Universal one cuts Arthur, and this one cuts Renfield. Yeah, and Jareth just said a good point that Anakin and Vader are so different, which is true, and that's why Sebastian Shaw is great in that role. And I also think though with Christopher Lee, he's typecast so much as villain. I do wish he got to play good guys more because I think he was just a really versatile actor who could do a lot of different things. He's kind of what you picture as a bad guy, but he could have played a good guy too. Well, would have been nice to see him get to do that more. And I mean, in Halloween, in to Your Sister's a Werewolf, aka Howling to Disturb a Werewolf Bitch. I mean, he does play a Van Helsing type character in that, so check that out if you want a good laugh. But he's really fun in it. And I know for a lot of people, because I think Christopher Lee wanted to play Gandalf, or Tolkien wanted him to play Gandalf in a movie, ended up getting Saruman, and it's so hard to see him in the Gandalf role. He's just so perfect as Saruman, and Ian McKellen just feels like such the right fit. But I still think Christopher Lee could have done it. Like I said, would have been cool if he got to play good guys more, because he was a great actor. Well, I see Jareth is not a fan of the prequels. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on how they handle Anakin. I actually like a lot of the story beats of that. Kind of iffy on the execution.
Favorite topic of conversation.
Star Wars. Look, there's so many Star Wars people in this movie. You got to talk about it. Yeah, I know the way Vader's handled in the prequels is a big point of contention for a lot of fans, but as far as just the story goes, I actually like that tragedy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I like Hayden, especially in Revenge of the Sith. I think he's pretty good in that movie. He's got some bad lines.
I mean, that's where all the good Anakin stuff is.
Yeah.
I like the idea in Attack of the Clones. I mean, it's just so boring.
Right. Yes, and he's very whiny.
The only scene in that movie I like, and I know it gets memed on, but I like it, maybe an idea over execution, is I killed them.
Oh, yeah. That's it. And I mean, my favorite scene of that movie, the death of his mom, I think is actually well acted and well
Yeah.
handled. I
Or
like
no,
that.
sorry, I slaughtered them
I slaughtered
like
them like
animals. No, the big issue with that scene is Padme just doesn't react.
She's fine.
It's fine. And
Oh, she
it's
does
funny
react. She is
because
very into it, sir.
that's the second time he's done something like that's questionable. Like they have that scene in the field where he basically calls for a dictatorship,
As you would.
and she's just like, "Yeah, this is fine." Like Padme, come on. I know you get progressively dumber in each movie. But come on.
But back to this movie.
Meanwhile,
It's
at the window,
well, with Lucy and the Universal one, like that subplot, we just blow past so quick. We get one scene of her in her room and Dracula, creeping up on her to bite her, and then in the hard cut to she's dead, and we're moving on. Here, this is an adaptation that kind of zeroes in on that subplot and really takes its time with her getting progressively sick and constantly being preyed on by Dracula. This is a nightly occurrence. And now she's dead. So with this subplot, we really kind of, for as much as this movie cuts and changes, this is one of the few subplots we kind of keep intact and kind of marinate on.
Jared, what I mean is it's clearly not supposed to be like that in the original movies.
It's vague enough that I think it's debatable.
I don't know who Anakin is if I'm just watching the first three. I get a vague description by Obi-Wan that I don't know if I can trust. And Luke's idealized version of him. And there are many things in the prequels that don't make sense with the original trilogy. For me, it has never been Anakin and Vader's descent into darkness.
And I like what Lucas was going for in Attack of the Clones when you hear him talk about it, why he cast Hayden, because he said he was going for kind of a pretty bad boy, like a James Dean rebellious type, which is cool, but so much of that movie is just him whining. Like,
I slaughtered them.
He's not charming in most of that movie.
Well, I think that more falls down to Padme is horribly miscast. Or let me rephrase that. If you're going to stick with Hayden Christensen, she is horribly miscast because they have no chemistry together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's weird that he ages in 10 years and she's the same.
Yep.
I don't even know why she's in episode 1. I wouldn't have done that.
No. Or what you should have also cast her as a child in the first one and then aged her up in the second one, if that's what you're going to do with Anakin.
That way you could screen test, do these people have chemistry?
But to be fair, there's a lot of great actors in those movies that give wooden performances, so I don't know.
Well, because I just think, they cast Bonnie Wright as Ginny so early. And then when you get to we have to do the romance stuff, and I was like, oh, but these two don't have any chemistry.
Right. And like I said, I really like her in Chamber of Secrets. She was a good kid actress.
Yeah. I don't think she's ever a bad actress. They just don't give her anything to do outside of her relationship with Harry. I don't like that stuff in the books. And I definitely don't like in the movies when I have to watch two people awkwardly try to like each other.
I think her best scenes their best scenes are less the romance stuff, and now we're on Harry Potter. But when Dumbledore dies and she's there to comfort him.
That and I do like that scene where she snatches the book from him.
Yeah, that's a good bit. But back to this movie, this stupid child is saying that a dead zombie woman's talking to her.
That's happens to me every other Tuesday.
I was out by myself.
Oh, and with Dracula as well, something I find interesting is he's the main one that gets adapted in all kinds of anime. Like there's Alucard, Castlevania. Like I said, there's a stand-in in Digimon.
Yeah, vampire. I mean, that just vampires specifically feel like become really big in Japan too.
Mm.
Outside of Universal, and it feels like all over the world. Like vampires just stick.
All right.
There's something about it.
How much do you want to bet I can remember what this Digimon's name is?
$2. Yeah.
Nope, that just pulled up something else. Digimon Dracula. That's not something I want in my search history. I'll tell you after the fact because I don't want it popping up on the stream.
And
Oh, I was close. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I do like Michael Go a lot as Arthur in this movie. He kind of just takes over for some of the Jonathan stuff. Because again, we're mixing all the characters in this movie, but I do really like him here.
So that is Myotismon. And he's so Dracula down to the point that his main attack is sending bats at people.
Oh my god, it's Vampire Lucy.
And he was scary as an 8-year-old, let me just tell you.
Oh, stupid kid. Run.
You'll float too.
Yeah, and that's what's so weird in the Universal version. You get one shot of Vampire Lucy just walking around, and then we hard cut to a scene of a guy reading a newspaper like, there's this like ghost lady attacking all these fucking kids. That's crazy. I don't know. And then it's just never brought up again. It's not resolved. They kill Dracula at the end, and they're like, we did it. It's like, what about Lucy? Yeah.
Does she ever come back?
No.
Maybe it's the idea like you kill the main guy and all of his thralls or whatever die.
No. I don't think they just forgot.
Wait, I thought he's dead.
No, this is Arthur. You're thinking of Jonathan. This is Michael Go, aka.
Oh, he looks a lot like Jonathan.
He does look alike.
And so now I remember him in this movie. It's so weird seeing him younger because I've only seen him as Alfred, and like I have a host of problems with those movies, but he is a top tier Alfred.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh my god, you're right. And then, okay, this is another thing I forgot to mention. Okay, so in this version, Arthur's not only married to Mina, but also now Lucy is Arthur's sister.
What?
But they were, yeah. We talked over that, but yeah, Lucy's Arthur's sister in this, but in the book, they're not related, and he's gonna marry her. But it still makes that scene really creepy when she's like all vampire, and she's like, "Give me a kiss, brother," and you're like, "Ugh, what are you doing?"
That's like the first thing that popped in my head because I was trying to like sort the family tree there. Yeah. Is do you know about the Ultimate Spider-Man thing?
Not specifically sure what you're referring to.
There's a mistake or an oversight or something. Austin would know better because he's the one that told me this. But basically, they hint that May is Peter's mom's sister.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So they got that wrong.
Which doesn't make sense. Because if they were Parkers, then they would be a different name because she marries Biff.
Yep. Whoops.
God damn it, Bendis. That or something really weird was going on in that house.
Oh yeah.
Remember Madam Web where we get God, what is her name? Is it Mary?
Mary.
Mary Parker?
Mary and May. Do you know about Trouble,
No.
the graphic novel? That was Marvel's 2000s attempt to like do comics aimed more at an older audience that weren't like superhero stuff. Where so that is a 2000s teen drama comic about young swinging teens Ben, Richard, May, and Mary. And the twist at the end of that is that May gets pregnant young and gives her baby to Mary and Richard to raise. So, according to Trouble, Peter is biologically the son of Uncle Ben and Aunt May.
Do you think
And
somebody
not
at
Richard and
editorial?
Mary.
Do you think somebody behind the scenes just gets bored every few years and is like,
Yes.
"What do we do?" Oh, that's insane.
Oh god.
And yet, that's not the craziest Spider-Man plot twist.
No.
Sin's past still takes the cake.
Yep. Oh, but first we got to kill poor Lucy here.
I thought you.
No, she's not dead yet. They still got to stake her. She's
Okay.
just sleeping.
So, because obviously Michael Caine.
Michael Go.
Let's go. Is in Batman. I can't help but thinking this. He would have made a good Bruce Wayne. I don't know about a Batman, but like a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, back in this era, I could see it.
I thought you said that she just disappears, but they kill her here.
No, I was talking about the Universal one.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, the Universal one. They don't resolve this subplot. I love though that at the beginning of this movie, when Jonathan stakes the one vampire lady, it's off screen, and you're like, okay, they probably just so that this one shows it, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
You actually see blood and shit.
I was surprised that they went that far.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. Had to be done. No, this had okay. What's interesting about Dracula though, as a character and adapting it, is my understanding of the book is we only learn and know about Dracula from other characters' POV. Like we never get head. We don't really know what his motivation is, like why he's buying land or moving, or and eventually he gets fixated on Mina. But my understanding is we don't get in his head in that book. So adaptations usually will put a kind of a different spin on it or add a reason, like the Coppola one and some of the others have like the whole love story angle that's really popular. But this one keeps it very simple to just this fucking Jonathan guy killed his vampire mistress, so now he needs another one. That's it. It's like, all right. I guess that's fine. Like, he had his lady friend at the beginning who Jonathan killed. So then he turned Lucy into a vampire. Now they killed her. So now he's gonna go after Mina because he wants a girlfriend, man. That's it. This also does a weird thing in this scene where they're like, okay, so vampires are like totally allergic to sunlight, and that's a big weakness. And then Arthur's like, but I heard vampires can like turn into bats and stuff. And Van Helsing's like, oh, that's just silly superstition. They can't do that. It's like, what? Why is that where we're drawing the line? So that's the other thing. In this version, we don't get Dracula turning into a bat or anything. Maybe he does in the sequels because I haven't seen those yet. But that's not a thing. Like Dracula doesn't transform into anything in this movie.
I've only seen the second one, which like we said earlier, he's not in. So.
The vampire must rest.
Something else I don't feel like a lot of vampire stuff deals with is it has to be in his native soil.
Yeah, it's usually just it's a coffin. Why? I don't know. Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about it during our commentary, but yeah, I guess the Universal one doesn't really address that.
Or at the very least, it never says it.
Yeah. But the original Nosferatu does. That's consistent in every Nosferatu version of
All
this story
three of
is the
them.
native soil. All three of
I almost said all two, but then I forgot about the new one.
them. Look, I'm a doctor, not a physicist. And then this British kid, this chimney sweep lad. Well, if he gave me a message,
When's the
he might.
last time we made just a straight up Dracula? Not Nosferatu, just Dracula.
I guess that BBC Netflix one.
Yeah.
When
I
was
would
that? Like
there.
3 years ago? When was that? Because I haven't. I've only heard it's terrible, so I haven't
I
watched it.
I'm not a big Stephen Moffat guy.
I've
He
heard it
has
starts good and then falls off a
grand ideas. It's getting them comprehensible and good that
cliff.
that was 2020.
Wow. What was it, like 3 or 4 episodes?
It's like a 3 episode mini.
That's a shame because I don't know, especially with the new Nosferatu. Like, I don't really need another Dracula movie, at least not like a faithful one of the book, just because we've had so many. But if we're gonna do Dracula again and try to be more faithful to the book, a mini series is more conducive to that. Like 4 or 5 episodes. It sounds like
They
that could
could
have
have.
been great, and they just blew it.
Well, I mean, the first issue was making it modern day. Just don't do
Yep.
that.
No one wants that. I guess HBO should take a crack at it. HBO, do Dracula.
They're kind of coming back.
No kidding.
We kind of ruined Game of Thrones, but I've heard people aren't happy with the latest season of House of the Dragon. But
They
we're
are
gonna do what's that?
that. Well, that one, House of the Dragon is good, but part of the issue is that second season was cut short because of the strikes last year,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't know that. That was part of the issue. It was just
Ah.
kind of an unfulfilling, shortened season. Hopefully, season 3 bounces back. But the Penguin, everybody loved the Penguin.
Everybody loved the Penguin. Most people like The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, HBO's doing well.
Uh,
I don't know. It
Michael,
feels like Max is getting a lot of their bad stuff. Like if you're a Max exclusive, that's an eyebrow raise. Creature Commandos was good, but that's the exception.
and even that's like the weakest gun thing I've seen.
Maybe.
It wasn't bad by any means, but the flashbacks carried that show.
Oh, the flashbacks are great.
Van Helsing is dressed like a Bloodborne hunter, and I'm here for it. Yeah, Jareth is agreeing with everything I've heard. The first episode is really good, and then it goes off the rails.
Yeah, so I haven't watched it.
We'll get to
We
it.
should. We should binge that. I like it's 3 episodes. We should binge that for the channel at some point.
I'm game.
We can get drunk. You can get drunk for that one. I'll allow it.
You should drink. I've never seen you drunk.
That's true. Yeah, I don't drink frequently.
I don't either. That's why I get drunk so easily. Because when I do drink, I like something strong.
Yeah, same.
Oh,
Yeah.
Robert still has PTSD from that Batman Beyond commentary, folks.
Oh yeah.
Thank God I delisted that.
You had to be there. Look at all
He
these.
fell down the stairs.
I like this guy.
Oh, and Sherlock started out okay, and then from what I hear, just went to
I
shit.
like Sherlock. Yeah, I still like the first 2 seasons. Three's pretty good, and then 4 kind of goes off the rails. Once you have the whole thing and see where it goes, it's like, I guess the first 2 are okay. I don't know.
I'm weird with Sherlock, where my favorite adaptation is like you have to squint for it to be an adaptation, but it's House.
Oh yeah, I mean by that logic, for me it's Psych because
Yeah.
I love Psych.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I really
there's a
do
lot
like
of Sherlock
that
adjacent.
first Downey movie.
Me too. I also like the second one. I think
I've only seen it once, and I
Jared Harris
remember
is
not
great.
liking it as much. But I could be won over on it on a second.
It's okay. It does have that sequel problem where it really overindulges in the stuff that wasn't great about the first movie,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of learns the wrong lessons. But Jared Harris is a really great Moriarty. Like he's the reason to watch it.
And to be fair, House is a closer adaptation of Sherlock Holmes than Psych is.
Probably.
A drug
I could see
addled
that.
genius that nobody likes. His trusty sidekick. He has the love interest that he can't be with, but is still attracted to her.
I mean, Psych has all of that except for the drug stuff.
John isn't a jerk.
Eh,
No, I
kind of.
mean, he isn't a jerk to the point where
Okay,
House will just call you stupid until you do what he wants.
that's fair. That's also though more of a thing we do with Sherlock in adaptations than
Uh-huh.
the original source. In the original books, he's kind of a nice gentleman. Like he's
Oh,
more
okay.
of a subtle asshole, but that's just the thing adaptations really run with is no, he's a jerk. Like he throws his which the Benedict Cumberbatch BBC Sherlock where he like really throw it in people's face about how smart he is.
Well,
And
and it's
yeah,
funny
that's not
because
really Sherlock Holmes.
that one feels more like House, where I'm like, have we kind of come full circle where House is kind of Sherlock Holmes and now this is kind of House?
Yep. Yep.
And House even has a Moriarty. But it's never actually said in the show, and he's in one episode. You gotta watch
and
House, dude.
yeah, I should. I'd say Mr. Yin's the Moriarty for Sean and Psych.
I can see that actually. Yeah.
He gets 2 episodes.
And it's Peter Weller, to be fair.
Yeah, I was so happy. I was like, oh, he's gonna be so happy when he sees what
I'm
happened.
so happy.
That was
I love
perfect.
Peter Weller.
He's great. Um, unfortunately, I like this movie. I do have the same thing I have with the Universal one, where it kind of slows down in the second half, and I start to check out.
I'm having that a little bit. I think the biggest problem with both of these is Dracula kind of gets side rail tracked.
Yeah, that's my biggest nitpick with this version specifically is I like Christopher Lee's Dracula a lot. I like his presence. He's just not on screen a lot. You get very little dialogue with him, which I'm sure you get a lot more in the sequels, and I'm really anxious to watch those. But in just this movie, like I said, he's got a great presence, he's got a great look, but he's just not on screen that
I
much.
think that's kind of where the Dracula is just a force of evil is gonna
Mhm.
fall short unless Dracula's on screen more because you're there for him. Whereas with something like Frankenstein, where it's like, oh, I feel bad for this creature, even when he's not on screen, you're anxious for him and like you're waiting to see him next,
Mhm.
and you're more invested because there's stakes.
Yeah,
The problem is the
like scenes
stakes that
like
are in
this.
this. I don't care about any of these people.
But he's going after Mina.
Jared, when you said house, I thought you meant that Asian horror film, and I was confused. Yes, that is truly the best
and,
Sherlock
and
Holmes adaptation.
and unrelated to the other movies called House. There's too many things called House. Stop
There's at least I can at least name 4 of them.
it. uh, but
I remember
earlier,
Dracula.
yeah. And oh my god, was a sex pest. What a
I
monster.
mean, that's just the story. Like, no matter which version, he's a sex
Yeah.
pest. At least
But
in this one, it's like, oh, you killed my bride. Like, I got to replace her. Not,
yeah.
I need a 4th one.
But earlier I was comparing Christopher Lee's Dracula to Darth Vader. That's why he got sidetracked on Star Wars. Just he's really tall. Just the way that cape goes over his shoulders, he's just kind of got that Darth Vader silhouette. He just looks really cool.
It'd be kind of funny if, like, after walking out of, like, say, Attack of the Clones, so he's like, you know, that Dooku guy, he would have made a great Dracula.
And,
No, it's really interesting how the Universal monsters kind of die out in the 2000s. And okay, so I just thought of this. So in the 80s, there's not a whole lot of Universal monster stuff coming out, right? But that's the slashers. Then in the 90s, the slashers kind of go away, and the Universal monsters come back a little bit. And then in the 2000s, the Universal monsters go away again, and the slashers come back in the reboot phase. Now we're in this weird hodgepodge where we've still got slashers, but now we're making Universal monster stuff again. And it's very strange that it's taken until this long for them to coexist.
Mhm.
He's been petrified. That is something that's odd that Harry Potter never deals with his vampires, because we get werewolves. And we know
Yeah,
vampires
I saw that.
exist in that universe. They're mentioned.
They could have been one of the Fantastic Beasts. Newt's
Where are
suitcase. Here.
But no, that would have been cool because, you know, Voldemort recruits like the werewolves, but he never recruits vampires. And you could have talked about that. Maybe that's something that's too dark for him to control.
Mhm.
But he can control Dementors, so
Um, yeah, the Dementors in hindsight were a real shoddy prison guard system Wizards had going on.
no, when you
For
think about
Azkaban.
it, the entire Wizarding world is a corrupt mess.
Yep.
And that's why the epilogue doesn't work for me. I don't think they fixed everything in 19 years. That is a whole, like, you'd have to redo the whole system. Like, I know how I have a couple of friends that were really big into Harry Potter fanfic back in the day, and that was a common theme of the war isn't done. We just cut off the head. Like, this whole society has to change.
Yeah. A lot of wizards were on board with the fascism. Like a lot of them.
Yeah. And not all of them were Death Eaters.
Nope.
Like my friend pointed out the other day, Malfoy just casually drops mudblood in front of the entire school and no one cares.
Yep.
Not just the students, but the staff.
But the women and
And
the
the men.
children too. And I hate them.
Oh.
Uh,
That's why Draco's redemption doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, he's probably still a racist little bastard. He just doesn't want to kill anyone.
and I think, like I said, I do like this movie, but what I'm missing that the Universal one does have, I need a real exchange between Van Helsing and Dracula. Like I want like a one-on-one conversation. I want some dialogue back and forth. Like I like the Dracula as just a presence idea. It's just a monster who pops up here and there, but I could use some bit more variety.
Plus, I mean, dude, Okay, this just popped in my head, and this is going to be like the greatest. Like, it can't happen because people are dead now. Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee as Dracula and Van Helsing, directed by Mike Flanagan.
Yeah. Ugh.
The monologues.
The monologues. But this scene's hilarious. Where we do see Dracula and he's like, "Oh shit, you found my hiding spot," and then he just locks Van Helsing in here.
Okay, that coffin
Yes.
looked really cheap.
It did.
It's like,
Look,
what do you got left in stock? We got this cheap looking.
No, now we're in a Scooby Doo routine where it's like, fuck, where did he go?
Has Scooby Doo ever just straight up done Dracula?
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh, hey, Teddy's here.
hi Teddy. Yeah, we're talking about this Dracula. No, there's a couple of vampire.
I know they do,
like,
yeah,
Scooby-Doo
vampire
movies.
stuff.
They've probably done
They've never
Dracula.
done Dracula.
There's at least one vampire in Scooby Doo. Where Are You? The original. It's not Dracula. I mean, it's basically Dracula. It looks like Dracula. So they do kind of do a mirror there.
Nosferatu.
And then, fuck, was it? Is it the Scooby Doo show? There's an episode I watched on a whim that was written by Paul Dini.
Yeah, you
And
told me
it's-
about that.
And it's Dracula, and him and a bunch of other monsters are being haunted by the ghost of Van Helsing.
That's
and the Scooby-Doo
beautiful.
gang have to help out the monsters.
That's a. Oh, you know what? I can't believe I didn't think of this. The Ghoul School.
Okay, yeah, I've never actually seen that. I'm just aware of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dracula's daughter is one of the main characters, so Dracula does show up in that. Dracula exists in one of the like 3 million Scooby Doo continuities.
Well, like I said, the original show, Scooby Doo, Where Are You? It riffs on the Universal monsters a lot, but it's always like, okay,
I mean,
that's clearly a Frankenstein adjacent monster. They do werewolves a couple times.
the creeper is just Frankenstein.
That's another one where it's like, you're kind of Frankenstein.
It even does the walk.
Yeah.
Teddy, the answer to has Scooby Doo ever done a blank episode is always probably. I don't know if they did Dracula specifically, but it's always probably.
Yep.
Well,
Exactly.
screw you, because I already figured out. Figured it out.
We already cracked it. That scene's really funny. Where poor Dracula, he just wants a new vampire bride, man. So he's burying her alive just to hide her from the sun. It's just, dude, it's jigs up, man. Because this version, we cut Carfax Albie. We're just back at the castle.
Mm-hmm.
We've chased him back here. Because also this version, I get it doesn't do Transylvania. Like he's just like a mile away from everybody else. It's not like this exotic foreign land. Like I said, that's the main thing I'm missing from this movie. It's I just want more screen time between Cushing and Lee because they're so great together.
Give me what I want.
Give me what I want. But Cushing is still my favorite Van Helsing. He's just like the right age. He's got the right look. He's got the right like determination and focus. But this fight's great. I love this fight.
But Robert, is he Wolverine?
He's not Wolverine enough.
I think that takes a few points off.
How much better would this climax be if he just pulled out one of those weapons from the Hugh Jackman one and just sawed off his arm, pulled out a crossbow gun, and started shooting him?
I think that would make this peak.
But no, this is one of my favorite on-screen Van Helsing Dracula fights. It's so good. This shot's really badass when Van Helsing spots the curtains and runs, just jumps, pulls them down to get the sunlight on Dracula. It's so cool. It's like, yeah, I got you, bitch. And then I think this is one of the most iconic visuals from this movie, where Van Helsing grabs 2 candlesticks and uses them as a crucifix. Does that Salem's Lot thing.
I just had a thought. This is the From Dusk Till Dawn climax.
Yes, except that instead of
It's
using
the
candlestick,
shotguns.
uses a shotgun.
Which is
Uses as a
arguably
crucifix.
cooler.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be historically accurate to whip out a shotgun here. But oh god, he's melting, John.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's not great, but they tried.
Yeah, they tried. God bless them.
Teddy asked what our favorite version of Dracula is. For me, it's hard to pick a favorite. I like a lot of them. I love the 90s movie.
Probably this one still, but I haven't seen Nosferatu yet.
Yeah, the new Nosferatu's also up there. That might be my new favorite. I really loved it. But now everything's as it should be. Mina's cured of her vampirism. The day Dracula's dead. The day is saved.
Can we please
Good
get
job, Van Helsing.
a remake of this in the style of those Sherlock Holmes movies, where he plans out the fight before he does it, and then we get to watch the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one has a lot of the same problems, but I like this one more than the Universal one.
Yeah, I totally respect that. It's
This
really
is
hard because
the deepest credits I've ever seen.
it is. I love it. Yeah, when up front when you said, "Oh yeah, like nothing looks cheap, it all looks good," I'm like,
Yeah,
"There's some cheap."
I clearly missed
I like
something, or I forgot.
No, like I said, I love the setting. I love the lavish production of the Universal one. I love the look of that movie so much, and I really love the first half. But as a whole, yeah, I think I prefer this one. But fuck, it's hard because
Really, the only one that the original has over this one is just how good Lugosi is.
and
The Lee is, yeah, but this one doesn't really have a Renfield, so I can't.
This doesn't have Renfield,
so I can't really compare them.
But you also get the Demeter stuff in the first one. That's not in this one at all.
No, but I think that's different things. I think that's what I like about this one. It's so kind of stripped down into one or two areas.
I will say the staging's less repetitive. There's at least a little more urgency in the back half. It's not just we are sitting in one living room for 45 minutes. And the Lucy vampire stuff in this one's great.
Yeah.
But the real question is now, where do you rank it with the remakes we have covered so far?
What's that? Oh, yeah. I forgot we did that on the show.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
Let's see. Horror remakes ranked. I feel like I'm feeling number 3. I feel weird about putting it that low, but like when I'm thinking about it, if I'm just picking a movie, I'm gonna put on like the Evil Dead remake or the Blob over this. But this is a better movie than at least Evil Dead.
Yeah, I might agree with that placement. I like the Crazies remake, but I'd put this over that.
Yeah.
I like Let Me In, but I'd put this over that. And then much to everyone's shock, poor Nightmare on Elm Street remake. That is still our dead list.
Still at the bottom. Can you believe we're 6 movies in? Yeah. So, do you want me to do it in order?
Order of your ranking, like what you
Okay,
got from
so
1.
this is from number 1 to number 6. Evil Dead 2013, The Blob, Horror of Dracula, Let Me In, The Crazies, and then Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I have the same ranking, except I just switched the top 2. I have The Blob as my number. But other than that, we have the
Interesting.
same ranking so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, it's time for our favorite part of the night.
Spin that wheel.
Yeah. Let's see if it'll cooperate. It did. All right. Oh. My Bloody Valentine. And wait till it shows up and see how close it got.
Damn.
Watch the stream to see how close it gets.
I'm watching. Wow.
It's literally on the line.
It's on the line, but you know what? We're pretty close to Valentine's Day. That's not horrible timing. It'll be like
yeah, because it'll be two weeks
2
before
weeks
we
from
even
today.
get to that.
Pretty good.
All right.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
You
I like that remake a lot. That might make my number 1.
Wow, you like it that much?
I think Jensen Ackles carries that movie.
And there are some good kills.
There's some good kills. But yeah, so in 2 weeks from today, we will be doing a double feature of My Bloody Valentine. I don't know the original very well. I've seen it maybe twice, but I do know that remake is pretty different.
It is, and I haven't seen the original, so that'll be fun.
Okay. It's Canadian.
Fuck.
Yeah. So we'll try to get Austin on for that one, because why not? And next week, Robert is going to make me watch Psycho 2. Now, are you wanting to just do another discussion like we did?
Yeah, that could just be a review. We also, I mean, because that'll probably just be like an hour. So if we have time, like we could do something else after.
Yeah, if we have time, we'll do something else after. We just don't know. Teddy's EU Canada, exactly. Or does that say ah?
Jareth said yay, and then Teddy said EU Canada.
Okay. So Psycho 2 next Friday. My Bloody Valentine the Friday after that. This Sunday, more of The Last of Us. We are showing that to our good buddy Noah for the first time. Because he doesn't know what a video game is. No. Until then, have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.